Mandalika and has kind of the least of all problems with this new harder casing Michelin rear tyre. He was looking forward to making the soft rear work in dry conditions, which unfortunately we are not going to get, of course, because even if the rain stops, it's not going to dry up sufficiently quickly enough before a dry Indonesian Grand Prix. That sort of expression there, the raised eyebrows from a latest Fibro's crew chief Antonio Jimenez there. The body language as well, hand on hips, kind of sums up where we're at, really, unfortunately, here in Indonesia. Everybody just playing the waiting game and looking skyward and keeping close eyes on the weather radars, the weather technology. Can we glean anything from that little map there as we again look at all the local dignitaries? I really do hope that we can get some MotoGP race action in here, because it would be the perfect way to end what's been such a brilliant weekend all round. As Lewis touched upon, we had a fantastic welcome when we first arrived here in Jakarta. The parade of 20 riders with President Mr. Widodo was like rock stars, wasn't it? And this was all part of what we hoped was going to be a really special grid ceremony to kick off the Indonesian Grand Prix. We saw the special grid ceremony for the first time precede the Qatar Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. It was a real nice new feature. Even though they can't go on the grid and they can't perform out on the circuit, well, the band is still going to play Indonesian national anthem. So myself and this, we'll just pause for a couple of moments. Well, you've got to give credit to the Indonesian authorities here. They're doing everything they possibly can to keep the patient fans, the expectant fans, entertained and occupied as we continue to have this unfortunate rain delay here. The race, of course, should have been over by now. Unfortunately, we're still waiting. We'll take another quick breather as well and soak up. Well, hopefully, the pre-race atmosphere. Some marching band. rousing and fantastic rendition of the Indonesian national anthem. Fantastic news to bring you as well. It looks like the rain just has started to ease off. I thought that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And in the band now playing in front of the president, Mr. Joko Widodo. The fans putting their heart and soul into that national anthem as well. What a picture that is. Great scenes here. That's why we are so desperate to give these fans the show that they came for, the show that they have been waiting for 25 years. We're 10 minutes away from what we hope will be the pit lane opening.
And this is the reason why we have the new 15-minute start procedure in place, the shorter start procedure. Because if there is a window in the weather where it does ease off, they want to make the most of it. Because of course, there's every chance if it does ease off that the rain could intensify once again later on. So a sensible application of the rules where if we do get a little bit of a in the weather where we can get a race of support to capitalise on it as soon as we can.
Fans there getting the pictures that they'll cherish for many a year to come. Hopefully they'll get some pictures of MotoGP bikes being ridden in anger around this Mandalika circuit. There has been a little bit of a break in the torrential rain. Let's hope those clouds can clear off and we can get some race action coming up. You can hear the GP bike just being warmed up in the pit lane. That's got the fans cheering, and this will hopefully get us all cheering because the new schedule has just been released. There you can see on your screens. Pit lane will open as we'd anticipated and as we'd hoped at 4 p.m. local time for a race start at 4:15 local time. So about 75 minutes after we'd hoped to have the Grand Prix of Indonesia underway here in Mandalika. But let's hope that finally this easing of the rain means that we will get this much anticipated, this much expected and much hyped Grand Prix of Indonesia here in Lombok.
Fabio Quartararo will be rushing off, changing into his leathers, of course, having enjoyed the dance-off that was taking place in the grandstands. Of course, much like you guys back at home, I'm sure you all much rather watch motorcycles go on the racetrack and hear us talk over them. But yeah, we hopefully will be only just 25 minutes away from the restarting of the crowd on their feet.
Yeah, local circuit announcer just confirming the news that we have just brought you. Sitting at home, we thank you for your patience wherever you are in the world. We know some of you, particularly in Europe, have had a pretty early start to watch the race action. We've got some strong coffee on board, and you can now enjoy what will be, of course, a shortened 20-lap Indonesian Grand Prix. Just still see there on that camera shot, looking at that spectacular Lombok coastline. A bit of rain still falling, but nothing like what we had about a couple of hours ago almost now.
Yeah, the rain started to really get heavy around 20 minutes or so, maybe following the end of the Moto 2 race, which in itself had been shortened. So the riders in that race will say they're pleased that race got shortened, which was due to the track conditions, not due to the rain. It was more due to the very hot temperatures that we've got here. They decided to shorten the race. That rain could come just around the end of the Moto 2 race at that run its full distance. So they will certainly be relieved on that score.
Well, we have waited 25 years for MotoGP action in Indonesia. We're about 25 minutes away now, hopefully, from the start of the Grand Prix of Indonesia at the 30-minute Mandalika circuit. You can see there, Loris Capirossi and Frankie Mancini, they've had a very, very busy afternoon. They're doing everything they possibly can to try and clear off any standing water that might still cause a problem. You can see in those puddles there, the rain is still falling, but it has eased off. Trust it, ladies and gentlemen. Organisation, both in MotoGP and here in Mandalika, they're doing everything they possibly can to make sure that this race does get underway at our new scheduled time, 4:15 local time.
Perhaps we can call that time the rest of the shallow end, Kelly, of this 30-minute Mandalika circuit. They've been working right around this play, as I mentioned. It's important to them that when the did break, an opportunity to get a racing did take place, the track was immediately in a condition that they could get racing as soon as possible. We have seen it, you can see a little bit there as well. Back on Saturday morning when we went out for free practice 3 in Moto 3, we saw Elia Battling at a really big high-side out, the gravel chaps and the gravel chaps were absolutely flooded here, so hopefully they've been keeping an eye on that as well to make sure that there aren't too many puddles for the riders.
If stepping down, get the brushes out. We've just had the Winter Olympics. We might have some candidates for the Great Britain curling team here, or an Indonesian curling team indeed, in the future. We've got the brooms, we've got the brushes, we've got the road sweepers doing everything we can then to get the race underway in, what is it now, 15:54 local time. So in just over 20 minutes time, we should be good to go, all being well here at the Pertamina Mandalika circuit. As Loris Capirossi and Franco Mancini, and every potential problem corner with standing water is cleared before the riders do head out on the circuit.
So who will see this as a big opportunity then, a wet race in MotoGP? The likes of Paul Espargaro perhaps starting down in 15th on the grid for Repsol Honda. Of course, he took his first MotoGP podium in very torrential wet conditions in Valencia. He will certainly see this as a big opportunity. Brad Binder, we've mentioned, of course, he's very, very good in his conditions as well. Sean Zarco, Jack Miller on the Ducatis will see as an opportunity. The big question, I suppose, will be Fabio Quartararo from pole position. Just how much has his wet weather riding come on since we last saw him at the end of last season?
So finally, we are getting the MotoGP riders and teams prepped and ready to go. They're bringing all the equipment onto the track now. We are going to start the quick start procedure. The pit lane will open very, very shortly. Thankfully, the teams are getting braced for this Grand Prix of Indonesia. Suzuki, Redding, Alex Rins. Let's quickly pop down for an update on the current conditions from Simon down in pit lane.
I'm only interrupting because, guys, it really has stopped. Like, I'm standing out here with no jackets, no umbrella, and it's almost nothing coming down now. So I think we're in luck.
Great news, Simon. Thank you very much indeed for that. Pit lane opens then in just over 4 minutes' time. And you can also see, just to underline Simon's point, a number of the spectators in the exposed seats at the front of the grandstands have removed their rain jackets and their Macs that were keeping them dry in the torrential conditions that we had for the last couple of hours. So, all being well, we'll be off and underway with the first Indonesian Grand Prix in the Premier class for 25 years. The race due to get underway in just under 20 minutes' time. Fabio Quartararo will line up from pole position then. Let's just run you quickly through the grid that will be lining up shortly. Martin and Zarco for Pramac. There is Jorge Martin, second on the grid. Starts from the middle of the front row. Brad Binder heads row 2 ahead of Bastianini, the World Championship leader, and Pecco Bagnaia. Oliveira, Rins and Miller there on row 3 ahead of Aleix Espargaro, Fabio Di Gianantonio, the top rookie, and Luca Marini. Marco Bezzecchi starts 13th ahead of Franco Morbidelli, who did receive a 3-place grid penalty for an infraction during the practice start session at the end of FP3 yesterday. That dropped him to 15th. He's now been promoted back up to 14th because Marc Marquez, unfortunately, who a number of those fans came to see, will not be starting this Indonesian Grand Prix due to a concussion sustained in a violent high side during the warm-up session this morning. That promotes his teammate Paul Espargaro up onto the 5th row and 15th with Andrea Dovizioso, who's certainly got some previous in wet conditions, hasn't he? He lines up 16th ahead of Joan Mir and Alex Marquez. Maverick Vinales would be 19th on the grid ahead of the 2 Tech 3 rookies of Raul Fernandez and Remy Gardner. Darren Binder is set to start 22nd, with Takaki Nakagami in 23rd. They're all, of course, chasing Fabio Quartararo, who starts from pole position.
Yeah, just actually quickly popped out of our commentary box and saw on the back of a scooter going to the Repsol Honda office was Marc Marquez. Quite a big plaster, looks like he got on the right elbow. If that's all he got away with after that monster high side at turn 7 in this morning's warm-up. He's a very, very lucky boy, of course, the 8-times world champion. Sadly, not a participant in this shortened 20-lap Indonesian Grand Prix. After that big spill this morning in the warm session, we wish Mark well and hope he's back in action, fighting, fit and ready to go. When we make our first trip to South America since 2019, we turn back to the Rio Hondo circuit, primed and ready for action there in 2 weeks' time.
So 90 seconds then until the riders will head out into the racetrack, and of course the riders wouldn't ordinarily push too hard on a cycling lap, but you can imagine riders were very, very keen when they head out there to get a real idea of what the grip levels are like. Of course, they'll do 1 lap to the grid, and then within 15 minutes of the pit lane opening, we will be off and running with the warm-up lap in this 20-lap Indonesian Grand Prix. Joan Mir, boy, he got some work to do, starting 17th on the grid, although he hasn't felt happy or comfortable at any stage, really, in the dry conditions this weekend. So perhaps a wet Grand Prix might present him with an opportunity to paper over some of the cracks of what has been a really desperate weekend for the 2020 World Champion.
You know, he's been in MotoGP a couple of years, hasn't he, Joanne? Likewise, they don't have an awful lot of wet weather experience. This is the journey into the unknown as well for the rookies, the likes of Marco Bezzecchi, Fabio Antonio, Migard, Aaron Binder as well. They've never raced a MotoGP like in rain conditions. So Fabio Quartararo, for the first time in 9 long months, can't believe we say that. He was always the qualifying king of MotoGP, wasn't he, the French? But he is going to start from pole position in this 20-lap Grand Prix. The number 20 flags waving loud in the Mandalika grandstands.
Just listen to the roar. This is what the crowd have been waiting for a good couple of hours now since the Moto 2 race came to a conclusion with spots of rain in the air. We've seen plenty of rainfall since then. The green flag waves and Joan Zarco leads the field out for this exciting lap. They'll do one back to the grid, and then at 15 minutes past the hour, the Indonesian Grand Prix will be underway. World champion Fabio Quartararo starts from pole position. Just how much has his wet weather riding come on since last season? Of course, it was his difficulties in the wet conditions, the mixed conditions that start Grand Prix and eventually concluding with his world champion back in the India Romagna Grand Prix last year, 15th on the grid. Can he put those wheels behind him and give his world championship defence the kickstart that it needs?
This is a massive step into the unknown for these MotoGP riders. They've done barely a handful of wet weather laps, certainly as wet as this on Saturday morning. So this really is stepping into the unknown territory. Who's going to quickly master the conditions? Who's going to take the big risks? Jack Miller, well, you know that he's so good in the wet conditions. He's proven to be strong on the Ducati and the Honda in the past. Of course, there's mixed on this. He took that famous win at the Dutch TT in Assen in 2016. Who else has got really strong weather prowess in this field? Well, that is actually a bad wet weather rider. Other guys, nothing to lose, really. Andrea Joseph, particularly off Ducati. We always put money on him to be a big threat in these rain conditions. You've got to see the way that Fabio Quartararo tried the Yamaha around that second sector. There's been other feedback from the World Superbike riders here, and the most three riders here, a couple of wet sessions, the group level here in the rain at this Mandalika circuit are very, very good. Very, very good indeed. So you can see the guys are just out there now trying to understand where the patches of water are, where the water's perhaps at its worst, and then also just work out the grip levels. Pico Bagnaia, also relatively experienced in terms of wet weather riding in MotoGP as well.
Alex Rins is a rider I'd perhaps point to as well, who might have half a chance in new conditions. He starts in the middle of the third row in 8th place. Pit lane closes in 4 minute time, which is why I think riders come back down pit lane. They do have time to do this. This isn't like the quick restart procedure where you have 60 seconds to get out there before the pit lane closes again. So understandably, some of the smart cookies on this grid, the two Pramac riders, the two Suzuki riders, taking the opportunity to do an extra lap on the track before they pull up on the grid, just to get a little bit more information, just to see where some of the damper patches are, where some of the grip levels are. ATM, of course, they'll fancy their chances this afternoon. Brad Binder, last time we saw this like this was winning a race on slicks. Of course, he won't be running there today. Miguel Oliveira also looking good. He starts up on the grid. Their team boss Francesco Guidotti speaking now with Simon.
Francisco, we now step into the unknown. I'd love to know how your riders go into this race, how they've been feeling in the box, and we do know how in the unknown Brad often pulls out something special. What are your thoughts?
Difficult to have an opinion, difficult to predict something. We never raced here before, and the conditions are completely different than the test and the practice for the weekend. So, yeah, let's start and we'll see. But the guys are in a good mood. Both of them usually perform well in the wet conditions. So, yeah, fingers crossed and let's go. Best of luck.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks to Francesco Guidotti. Great start, as Lewis says, for the KTM team in Doha. Brad Binder, it's a third podium finish in the Prix class. What if he did attempt to go out slick? Joke, of course, that was his brilliant victory at the Red Bull Ring in the Austrian Grand Prix last year. So finally, we are getting the grid forming here at the Pertamina Mandalika circuit in Indonesia. McNicity await their man. Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco, both going from the front row of the grid. There's going to be some nerve jangling now because, as we mentioned, we can't overemphasise this is a complete blank canvas, a complete journey into the known for these guys. They've never raced before here in Mandalika. They've certainly got very little experience of wet weather conditions. In some respects, it might be a bit of a lottery, but it's certainly going to provide some nail-biting entertainment. We hope you have stuck with us over the last hour and a half or so when our coverage of MotoGP started. I'm sure you have. Why would you go anywhere? It's the greatest motorsport show on earth as we look at Anaya Bastianini starting from the middle of that second row. Binder and Bastianini, Lewis, in the dry. You really fancy them to be strong given they've excelled in the Doha from really good qualifying performances. Let's quickly pop down to the grid again. Piero Taramasso and Michelin, they've been thrown in an 11th hour curve, haven't they, by the tricky conditions. Simon's with the Michelin Sport Manager, Piero Taramasso.
Yes, Piero, some new conditions for you to make the weekend even tougher. Can you tell us what tyres the riders will go for?
Yeah, in this condition, the choice is medium front and medium rear. This is the one because the track temperature is still quite high, is around 25, 26 degrees. And also become the problem that you might overheat too much and you lose grip. With the medium, will be much more stable. So this is the best choice for this condition.
Thank you, Piero.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks to Piero Taramasso. We're just running through this revised grid now, of course, revised sadly because 8 times world champion Marc Marquez has been ruled.
Harganya 1 yen ya, Pak.
Kena anu.
Meskipun awan tebal dari Sumatera sudah tidak ada, kita akan melihat bagaimana jalannya race kali ini. Nah, ini Mania, ini adalah yang sudah kita selama 25 tahun di Indonesia. Antusiasme penonton air di sana, bisa kita melihat di sana, yang atas gerakan Ramiro, mereka sudah memiliki favorit ridernya masing-masing dan mereka sudah menggunakan yang masih ada engine-nya terlihat ya dan bisa penuh dan lucu sound begitu pula dengan sebaliknya section lainnya dan juga di closing plus premier juga para penonton itu sudah berdiri di luar. Kami yang memiliki sedikit program kami akan melaporkan yang terbaik untuk GP Mania. Selanjutnya kita melihat Darko dan masih belum memakai helmnya. Darko masih terlihat mempersiapkan diri untuk mengikuti Grand Prix of Indonesia. Lalu bagaimana dengan rider lainnya? Rider lainnya di sana ada Brad Binder. Ketika sudah maju. Oke, baiklah. Oke. sudah harus mendampingi hanya boleh 2 orang, artinya sebentar lagi race akan segera dimulai. Diawali dengan warm up lap terlebih dahulu. Dan tadi sudah ada informasi juga mengingatkan kepada pemirsa mungkin baru saja bergabung. Memang race sempat ditunda kurang lebih 1 jam lebih karena hujan. Jadi kami ingatkan kembali bahwa masyarakat hari ini tidak akan turun karena sudah dideklar unfit untuk Indonesian GP dan market adalah langsung diterbangkan ke Barcelona untuk observasi lebih lanjut. Karena memangnya sebenarnya cepat karena dalam waktu 2 minggu mereka akan langsung race di Argentina.
Tadi juga sebenarnya melihat tidak hanya Anthem baru, tapi juga kalau kita lihat sebenarnya TV itu banyak yang baru. Bagaimana mengambil juga dari baru secara karena yang merupakan tentunya adalah teknisi suspensi yang punya dan ternyata kolaborasi atau adaptasi bagus dan sebenarnya tadi kalau komputer itu bisa besar aja karena kemarin melakukan kesalahan yang memotong dan memotong jalur jualnya di saat dia kena dipenalti juga posisi.
Kalau misalnya di mana yang bertanya-tanya Pansi, sebetulnya bukan opsi DPS, tapi siapa idolanya? Ya kalau kemarin kemarin kita sama bagaimana? Tapi ya, ini salah satu strategi ini dari serius nih ya, gimana? Kemarin waktu aku tanya strateginya apa, Fabio Quartararo karena di Moto dia ini diapit oleh 2 Ducati, gitu ya, diapit sih. Ada 2 Ducati di sampingnya dia, ada Jorge Martin dan juga Johan Zarco. Nah jadi strategi dia akan langsung meninggalkan rider-rider yang lain karena begitu ini start nih di Mania ini untungnya siaran di Mandalika kita bisa lihat first corner karena itu adalah first corner yang sangat menguntungkan. Nah sekarang kita akan langsung masuk ke warm up lap GP Mania. Kita berdoa bersama sampai dengan itu mudah-mudahan sesi berlangsung yang sangat lancar, tidak terjadi hal yang tidak diinginkan. Kita lihat dari belakang saya dan juga Dono semua rider sudah memulai warm up lapnya.
Nanti ring jadi tidak ada cepatan air ke belakangnya.
Baik, GP Mania akhirnya telah menunggu 25 tahun sejam. Kita akan langsung saja menyaksikan live race MotoGP dari Pertamina Mandalika Circuit.
Orang
Such an early stage, it is brought to the conditions as they are to stay off the curbs. The curbs were very treacherous earlier on in the Grand Prix. We are back in Indonesia. It's been 25 years and a 2-hour wait for this MotoGP race, which we're now getting underway. Fabio Quartararo looks to the spoils in Mandalika and get the World Championship Challenge on and running. He defends the crown that he won last year, but just to come back to the point I mentioned a moment ago, practice 3 session yesterday, we saw a number of riders really losing control on the curbs, so they're looking to stay off those when they can. First winners of brand new circuits then. Andrea Iannone took first win on MotoGP return to Austria in 2016. 3 of the 5 new circuits on the calendar have been won first time by Marc Marquez. Of course, he won't be doing that today. And of course, when we returned to Portugal for the first ever Grand Prix in MotoGP in Portimao was Miguel Oliveira, who took the spokes. But of course, none of those were in wet conditions. Who will be the first man to match the Mandalika in MotoGP? We're about to find out.
It's time then for MotoGP to rock in London. This is a special moment the Indonesian fans have been waiting a quarter of a century for. Fabio Quartararo about to start round 2 in 2022 from pole position. On the front row with the Private Ducatis of Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco. 8,940 days since the last Indonesian Grand Prix ascent back in 1997. Late than we expected, but better late than never. The green flag waves the back of the grid. We're about to get underway here. The Grand Prix of Tunisia. Delayed on the lights, the red light comes on, and we are underway here. MotoGP action underway in Indonesia. Big win of Oliveira for Jorge Martin in second place. Quartararo at the top against the whole shot, but Oliveira up into third.
Rims on the outside, he's round wide into turn 1. He's got Jorge Martin, so Rims got a brilliant start from the 4th third row of the ring. He's now been equalised by Jorge Martin, but Quartararo, just as he hoped for, he's got the whole shot. He's gone and cleared track.
We saw a sensational start from Brad Binder in the drive starting race in Qatar. Brilliant launch there from the third row by Miguel Oliveira. He started seventh and immediately slots himself into second place behind Fabio Quartararo. Perfect start for the world champion.
He's right on, expected to keep an eye on his business.
Concern number 11 position gets swallowed up by Fabio Quartararo. As good a start this been for Oliveira's Katie, it's been a bad start for Brad Binder. He's dropped outside the top 10 for that promising fourth place.
And the championship leader, Bastianini, he's all the way down in 15th spot, so he's already showing his conditions at his very early stage. He can go build into it as this race goes on, but the championship leader is in big trouble at his very early stage. Here are your three leaders then, as Miguel Oliveira has a little bit of a look at Jack Miller. Quartararo's hanging on to them. It looked like he might slip backwards when he lost it at the start, but there were some references ahead of him. Quartararo able to go with the leaders.
Amazing performance by these guys. When you think that they had no proper level of experience around this time, as you said, Jack Miller's just at the back of the race. A 1:41.964. That's just about 10 seconds away from their best speed in qualifying conditions. Slick tires yesterday. Amazing lap times, amazing confidence. This is why these guys are the very best in the world. To be setting these lap times with their experience in these conditions around this Mandalika track, incredible.
Quartararo with a little bit of a safety himself, but he saw it wide in the back of the shot. He's now coming under a bit of pressure. Flying springs. There is Quartararo's teammate, Fabio Morbidelli, who's made big progress in these early stages. A little bit surprised that the Ducatis aren't quite as competitive as we thought in these early stages. Jorge Martin down in 8th position for Pecco Bagnaia. He's starting to make progress back to the pack after his poor start. He's back up into that.
Miller, one of them can have second laps was a foot throw now then. Rings and Zarco got to find a way through on Quartararo pretty quickly here because they can see the top two men, Miller and Oliveira, much faster and starting to check out at the front.
And this is real danger, but it's a short race, 20 lap race, so not a lot of time for these riders to get these moves going and get up the road. Rins and Zarco really are flying all over the back of Fabio Quartararo. He's lost a lot of ground on his lap. He's 1.5 seconds back now on the leaders, but he's managed to cover his line pretty well into turn 16. Rins still holds the line, still stays in pole position. Zarco and Mia just not behind them. And now we go back to Jorge Martin. He's in 8th position at the moment, just at the back of this leading group.
I just showed you there how one-line it is, particularly in these rain conditions. So Alex Rins and Zarco couldn't get through. Quartararo's getting swallowed up though. Rins and Zarco pick him off out of that final corner on the brakes of the first corner. Quartararo's gone the wrong way here. He made a great start, but it's all unlikely to be quicker here for the world champion. Alex Rins now for his transport. Two flying Frenchmen all over his rear tyre. Now this battle, as it rages on, it's just giving Miller and Oliveira the chance to break away. You can see the top two men there. They're already going through turn 5.
Here's what happens to Fabio Quartararo. Don't touch the curve, so Fabio Quartararo got on the curve, but he just lost him all his momentum.
I think that's what happened as well. Lewis earlier in the race, however, and that allowed Oliveira to get through initially. Jack Miller then with the hammer down, a 1:41.161. Full respect to Miguel Oliveira to keep tabs with this early pace by the Australian. Oliveira on that last lap was also a 1:41.1. Also pretty rapid, 0.5% away from the top two. Let's see what Rins and Zarco can do now they've got through on the world champ Quartararo.
This is a new magnet from the race leader, Jack Miller, who we've so often seen excel in these kind of conditions. Miguel Oliveira, we've not seen less of that over the years, but he's certainly proving that he's the match for Jack Miller. He's in a little bit, he stays where he is for the while he's still pulling away from the gap behind them, the likes of Alex Rins and John Zarco. I think Miguel Oliveira will be quite comfortable to sit there in second place, as long as he can still see the road ahead of him and look back, just to sit there, he feels he's got the case later on in the score.
So it's nice to check that. One of those super strong in these tricky rain conditions that still has the advantage of finding another 1:41.2 just a 10 quick than Oliveira in second place. Alex Rins dropped the pace of the 1:41 as well. There is Jorge Martin back in that. Now it was number 89 as number comes as well. On the white line. Slippery as you like. Look at this. He's on the curve, on the white line, and how on earth has he stayed on for that? Sideways, big time. Jorge Martin, that was fast in the back for the Spanish driver. He stays sunny side of the flank loop and still holding 8th place.
The World Championship leader is sinking with that race. He is now in 20th position at the moment. He's bringing the 1:44, so he's 3 seconds a lap slower than this duo on the front.
There's only your track was as slow as a GP. You know, actually, we had to go on the wet experience, taking that goal was like an absolute horror show out there. Likewise, having the others who were really getting anyway, here comes Oliveira. That's before the race lead is now in the action. Portuguese now. Miguel Oliveira snaps on the inside of Jack Miller coming into turn 12.
Yeah, because you know what he's showing to you for a couple of laps now. Oliveira looks visibly faster than Jack Miller. Not like he's been back. Now Jack Miller's going back. But it's not continuing to break away from the big behind them. Only really Alex Rins and Quintana are any better. He's the best he's got. Quintana continues to like second on the slide.
Was digging a trench into the surface. That's incredible. What a save by Fabio Bagnaia.
He's rejoining from place. He's starting to make some gentle progress in the complicated area of the career. He was facing Polish fire. He makes a good progress. He's just not got the career. He made progress. He's starting 15. He goes up to the top 8. Close now. So what's on about in the race? He starts to slip back down.
Still releasing parts of this Indonesian Grand Prix. So that's good. Yeah, but I think things on the good because of visibility spray. That's horrible. You end up on by the time you know it's too late. Good news is the rain. The next one you'll see spray visibility. Give me that. Yeah, that's that side. The top of there from Joel Kyoto, probably one of the strongest regular riders in this MotoGP field. And sort of shaking the head and frustrated the Lord look on Bobby's face. That could look like his name is Dave Classic. Looks like that. Come on, I was going to touch on it. Come on, take him off this weekend. When that machine has been working underneath that drive, he's probably going to drive masses on Friday. Just coming from an opposition. These big conditions, they'll really hit. Oh, Martin! Martin, unfortunately, is back to back. Big enough to pick up 2022. For the Spanish rider, that's the thing he's overturned on as well. We saw Fabio Bagnaia, the big scare there, 2 or 3 laps ago. That is a very second lap GP 2022. What's up, just on that wet patch, Fabio Bagnaia, those things that he was just braking, squeezing that front lever on that little ring that was running across the circuit. Nothing he could do. He was almost straight like a braking there, up and down. Jorge Martin down. Thankfully, he's okay. Massive repair job on that coming to catch us. So lost Martin from 7.
The yellow there continues to chip away. He's still acting in the low 40s. Chamberlain started to match him on pace, so he's just keeping. Unfortunately, he's wrong there in check. They're all setting personal best laps now. They do a fastest man. But the leading group on that best lap, the world champion, Fabio Quartararo, 140.184. For instance, Bernie Spears, but the red lines, he's Gonzaga, well, should be inside.
Very careful. Zarco is in on that one line. He's 13. He tries to keep the car. He makes sure it's ahead of him. And Michael have got to a couple of takes. Francesco Viganti, what an amazing start to his tenure as a replicating factory racing team manager. He saw Brad Binder start the season with a brilliant second place in Canada. Forget Oliveira winning off against another fastest man. This is unbelievable pace. But we heard about fantastic grip levels here. The main contact from Mandalika at 1:39.801 now from Oliveira. That is only 8.8 seconds slower than the slick tyre pace. Astonishing. What high grip levels we've got here in the rain.
Absolutely. Once again, next fastest man on track was Fabio Quartararo. He's certainly growing in confidence in his race conditions. He's 6 tenths of a second behind Johan Zarco. This is the battle then for 12th place. This is Paul Espargaro on the leading Honda in this race. He's got Alex Marquez just behind him. We're going to see what's happened to Paul. He's touched the line and he's gone way off track.
Wow, that was a monumental scare for Paul Espargaro. Wow, we've seen some big Martin about moments riding that curve on the outside of the side. That's not where you want to be. Those guys not going there intentionally. It's just where they're finding themselves with the spray and the visibility. That was huge. Wow, Paul Espargaro can't go back 9 6 when he's got Brian Hoshku to tonight because that was so close to disaster in the curve. And they're still circulating in this Mandalika Grand Prix. Nobody's doing a better job right now than Oliveira. He's now on this lap alone in 3 seconds, taking 7 tenths after Jack Miller, stretching away here. 2.2 seconds gap. Oliveira comes to the final sector.
Well, the win you are an FTMA of Ross Andreevicioso, but shout out to his teammate Darren Binder. He's doing a superb job. He's up into 13th position now. Well, truly the points for South Africa. He's got, of course, not much weapon experience at all, but on the last lap around, he was faster than everyone ahead of him all the way up to 6th position. So he's chasing his way through the field. Actually, he's also starting to regroup. He's now back up into the points.
Oh, that's all the drama. Smart Marquez missing his goal to react to 4 clashes falling in the wall. But the last thing, there was another hat on the deck after having crashed. That's so close to what happened to Paul Espargaro. Now then, Oliveira now down to a fastest lap of 1:39.557. He was about 7 tenths quicker than Jack Miller directly behind him. Miller just slowly being rode here as well by Alex Rins. Rins was half a second faster than the Aussie on that last lap. The fans gathered all around the world, virtual fan wall. Hope you enjoy this one, folks. The wait 25 years for Indonesian Grand Prix. Delivered so far, hasn't it? Great drama, great entertainment. And we're still going to go. Not even at halfway distance is shortened. 20-lap Mandalika battle. Still being dominated at the moment by this time. Again, Oliveira.
Taking my side, he's coming over the impression of Alex Rins has also got Johan Zarco. Chris Zarco behind him, so I don't know why. As you say, it's a moment, so that might have been Alex Rins on the whole bit. He still sits third position here. As you want to finish in the late last year, he was picking up the backstep of the line race. So he's now starting to lap in the world of what he wants as he's gently makes his way through the field. He's on 5.7 seconds left on Alex Marquez ahead of him, so he may be relying on to his much of ahead to claim any extra points.
Marquez on that previous lap, so we've got time to recover that gap. Time to rotation. There's a couple of times that he's got close, sort of been striking this Alex Rins. He just made a mistake and makes the visibility. He's credit though, despite that mistake on turn 11 on the last lap.
Enggak ada suara. menguji seberapa kusuknya kita ini karena harus diuji. Ya, Pak. Nek ngono terlalu entek suarane kan mikrofon tinggi. Itu kan ujian dia mati. Ngomongnya belum dulu aja. Ujian gitu sih.
podium battle and surrendered another place to Fabio Quartararo. The other moment coming out of that final corner at turn 17, which we've seen big bonus of Martina Polisvago earlier in the Grand Prix.
139.9 that last lap, actually. That was a Zarco, he's showing the wheel on the inside of the Miller. He's able to break late enough for Zarco on the right. Zarco kind of been one-footed there by the Australian ahead of him. And at the moment, Miller holds strong in second place.
There's no need here for Zarco to take these kind of big risks in the braking zones. He's by far the faster man of these two captains. Jack Miller has dropped back into the clutches. Zarco gives the brilliant speed of the Frenchman, that 138.935. The grip levels, not the keep talking about this. Amazing lap times in these race conditions. Fabio Quartararo's whole time, not a dry race lap, was a 131.067. Yet Zarco, on full race highs in really good conditions, is finding a high 138. Remarkable.
Sean Zarco then closing in on the back of Jack Miller as they come across the line. Miguel Oliveira continues to lap in the mid-139s. He's setting a decent bit out front. Here he is, clear by Scott. To the challenge Zarco on the side. Miller setting his personal best lap on the race in the mid-139s. And Quartararo 1.8 seconds behind. He's got the Frenchman in fourth. Six rings in a 140.7. Of course, we saw a slow start on the lap. And he ended up losing fourth place to Fabio Quartararo.
Yeah, Rins made a mistake going into turn 16 as well, which has lost him further ground here to Fabio Quartararo. So unfortunately, having climbed up his sick bed, he was laid low by a nasty bug coming in here as we've got a bit of battle ensuing. Bragging rights back in the European race in Andorra at the stake here. Brad Binder in 9th place. His brother Darren has just passed Pekka Bagnaia and Aleix Sparrow to get himself up into 10th spot.
This is an incredible line from Darren Binder. Only the top, well, 6 of the top 7 are faster than him. He's faster than everyone else on track at the moment. Alex Rins was slower than him. Here is the battle of second place, and you can see just how much more speed Sean Zarco is able to carry through turn 11. We're going through into 12. Will he have a look into 13? No, he's not. He doesn't have such a
Ganti ikut.
here, Sean Zarco. He's clearly got the superior pace. Jack Miller can get some clear track. But where is he able to make that crucial move?
He's got the superior pace, and he knows as well he's got nothing from Miguel Oliveira. He's just too far off into the distance. So at the moment, it looks like the best Zarco can gamble for is a second place. In the field of whether Miguel Oliveira wins this Grand Prix right now, Darren Binder is in the right move. It is. He's had a full wet weather experience on that with the RNF Yamahas. He's got a plan on his right now. As Oliveira's lead is 3.8 seconds. He exchanges 139.7 with Jack Miller again, slightly faster with Zarco. Fabio Quartararo's got some real speed now. 139 flat. Quartararo, he's trying to drag himself back into contention for his podium as well.
We've not seen on screen, but Darren Binder has passed his brother Brad now. Darren Binder's up into 9th place. He's now just on the tail of Luca Marini, who will be his next target. And then I think he's probably trying to slightly more difficult, but Darren Binder putting in an exceptional performance on the with the Yamaha. Jack Miller a little bit wide there. That might put him under pressure now from Sean Zarco. This is where Zarco will take the slingshot and head down into turn 10. Is he going to inside? He is.
Yeah, he's worked that move. He's looked at that move a couple of times. He gets it way too hot. They've got to be careful there. Doesn't want to pick up the throttle and launch himself to the moon. So it was a brief sojourn into second place for the Frenchman at turn 10. He was standing, of course, at the end of FP4 in dramatic fashion on the drop oil by Alex Rins, his stripping Suzuki. And now this is for Fabio Quartararo right back in the heat of the battle here for second place. Once he got heat in those tyres as well, Quartararo found his rhythm, found his confidence, and he started in the lead. He's getting himself right back into this podium battle. Quartararo's going to pass his right up to second.
Actually, here he goes. Look up the inside. It's 16. Has left his breaking the loop to it. No, that's beautifully done. Quartararo, who at one point looks into his main in his race, is now creeping to the podium positions.
Yeah, he knew there, as long as he had Zarco is outside his peripheral vision, there was no way that Zarco was going to be able to cut him back. And the Ducati power coming into effect here, and Zarco who just slips on by us. Quartararo a big moment there on a bit of standing water and pulled the cord out by Martin, and he doesn't even lose that spot. And Zarco trying to get on the gas as quick as he dared through that first corner. He had a big step out of the rear tyre as well, so it's now Quartararo back into third place. 75% of the race has been completed.
Yeah, we all saw a French connection there, didn't we, between Zarco and Quartararo through turn one, but Quartararo able to take that third place. He's the fastest rider on track again. He's doing low 139s. He was 14 quicker even than the leader, Miguel Oliveira. Only 5 laps to go, and Oliveira should be able to manage that 4.6-second gap. Is Zarco going to have another go? He's not been able to get his overtakes really so far. He has a little look at the inside of Quartararo.
Charles, a bit of French resistance going on here. He can't resist anymore. Kenny Quartararo up the inside into turn 12. This has been a brilliant recovery by Fabio Quartararo. His last 5 or 6 laps have been sensational. The world champion's ride from the world champion. This is what we wanted to see from Fabio Quartararo. This was the Quartararo missing in the dry in Doha a couple of weeks ago. And of course, crucially, looking strong in the rain conditions where perhaps in the past he has something.
That's where his progress may end. He's got 10 seconds up to Hamilton today in 7th position. Right in there, please drop back to the 11th, which could keep Bastianini in the lead of the challenge. He's in 14th. He's just gone past Pecco. He was having a nightmare in these closing stages.
Quartararo's got some serious pace at the moment. Just over 139 flat. That was 9 tenths of a second.
Outbreaks himself, and that's just how much his Zarco needs. The inside next to Oliveira should be enough for him to move into third place finally.
Let's check the gap. This man the race leader than Oliveira as he's about to start lap 17. 3 to go here in Mandalika. Oliveira's up to Quartararo. 3.4 seconds faster. Fabio Quartararo is smelling an unlikely victory here, putting real pressure on Oliveira. 138 4.9 than Quartararo.
Oliveira must have been 60 and pretty comfortable right now, playing the beginning to hurry up now. He's seen the pit ball when he goes this time around. We'll now see Oliveira just have some more pace in hand, whether he's at his limit. Just sense the pace he is. His pace here will now be affecting Oliveira for the news that he's losing second lap to Fabio Quartararo in second place. Can he now respond with 3 laps to go? And second lap, Quartararo comes there on final lap for this Grand Prix.
Just struggling to hang on to the coattails of Zarco. Oliveira's held station through the first sector. He's kept that gap to 3.4 seconds. Of course, it wasn't with a slight pace, but managed to pretty well as Quartararo there. He's raced through that clear visor. A picture of concentration. You can see Miguel Oliveira coming back to him. In fact, Quartararo's really strong in sector 2. He's round 4 tenths of a second on Oliveira in that second split. The gap down to 3 seconds.
Oliveira has been able to get back in 10th. It's really these matches are talking about 10th of a second here and there can make the difference here for Oliveira. And he's now suddenly has to go into protection mode and try and protect that lead over Fabio Quartararo. 2 laps to go. Once Oliveira comes down this next left-hander, has he been able to respond? It looks as if he's just been able to do enough on this lap as he comes out of this one. He's on his pace. No question about it. He's been high behind so once he matches this time around. And personal best lap in the race for Oliveira. 1:39.2 he has responded. Quartararo continues to have the 38, 39. But only 3 tenths faster that time around. Portuguese has responded.
Just a response to K2 that we're looking for Miguel Oliveira. He's got that Mandalika now. TV on time. And 1:39.205. That could be decisive. That could be a pivotal moment in this Mandalika battle. It's 3.2 seconds now clear of Fabio Quartararo. Surely now, Quartararo's going to set the second place. Look at this battle. Here comes an SGP up the inside. Now a Binder. He's got that move on. You know the Binder though is not going to have it for nothing. He finds back. He leans on the world champion leader. Great stuff with Maxine. He's got something to it, hasn't he? Engaging with Darren Binder. And he made a mistake going into turn 2.
Look at the stars of the company in this group, and they're being led by the rookie up from Moto 3 last season. Darren Binder is doing absolutely swarming right. Bastianini, the world championship leader, looking to try and rescue whatever boat he can, and he's rescued an extra toy there. That's not place to see if he can overtake, but Bastianini carving his way through.
Bastianini's trying to get to the foot of this group. Now he's back and pick up the Binder on the inside of turn 10. no fear, no holds barred from Bingo. He's got some fireworks in his Moto 3 career, but Bastianini can't find a way through. Alex Spargo right on, brilliant press in the turn, Spargo. Bastianini in the sandwich, and he's the one that comes out on the right side of it. Finley got through. Likewise, Alex Spargo. Bastianini surrendering crucial championship points here. Now Brad Finley goes through. At turn 30, last lap on the Mero, he's your race leader. His advantage over the line was cut down to 2.8 seconds. Fabio Quartararo. Every twice when the Red Bull keeps getting going. So Qatar was good. Further went started season with finish second place, but it's about to get better because Oliveira on course here for a famous first win in Indonesia.
Something's happened to that minute. Just about to he's gone back to 10. He's run a Brad. He's out in 20th place. Kate's again. I want to the chat for Army. Brad Finder's going to be very, very close to the World Championship lead. He's got Oliveira on course for his fourth career victory in MotoGP. The point positions look relatively set. Sean Sarko took a couple of tenths off Fabio Quartararo on that last lap. That was more than enough. They've pulled clear. Jack in the middle, saving four Suzuki's. No one so far has been able to keep the pace of the magnificent Miguel Oliveira, who's just a few corners away now from a crucial and very well-deserved victory.
Into turn 12 then, just got to keep his focus, keep his concentration. It's been a perfect Grand Prix so far for Miguel Oliveira. He has not shown foot wrong. Keeps that KTM wheels in line. Zarco going hot again into turn 13. And here we go then, Miguel Oliveira, just a couple of corners left for him in this first Indonesian Grand Prix. For 25 years, it has been well worth the wait. Fabio Quartararo is going to take second place, but through the final corner then comes Oliveira. Miguel is the man in Mandalika. A famous win here for KTM in our first Indonesian Grand Prix, a quarter of a century, a brilliant podium, really good second place for Fabio Quartararo. Sarko does take third, fourth place goes to Miller, runs in Miller, two leaders and 56 respectively. He's going to win this easy battle for seventh.
He's just anyway, Spargo and Darren's got in there, but she needs to his top squad. Looking to try and steal some late points in the World Championship leader. But it looks like Brad Finley is going to take those 8 World Championship points for 8th place. For Spargo coming to be great, he's got in top position, but it is Brad Finley, Elijah Spargo, Darren Finley, still into the 10th there. On the wing yard, Bastianini covers that force back to 11. And then Paul Spargo and Alex Marquez, Mourinho 14, while Paco Bagnaia takes the final point, just 1 point from the first 2 races for Bagnaia.
They know that was a massive race there from Fabio Quartararo in terms of the championship. They've joined jubilation. KTM. What a race by Miguel Oliveira is truly.
Like weddings and parties.
She'll be getting a position at the FIA. I think she'll be taken to every Grand Prix over the course of the year now to try and ward
Put
off.
himself in a good position on the grid, looked good in FP4. Now, completely different conditions. How does he feel about the win?
Yeah, now it's difficult to predict how does it go the race because still a lot of water on track. There is a big patch in some corner, but for sure this is the same condition for everybody, and we don't make any practice on this condition. So we will see. We start for the second round. This is good enough, but we have to learn lap by lap what we can do.
How does Enea feel about rain condition riding?
Not so bad. Not so bad. We have to improve in this point, but we have a good base on the rain.
Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Michele Massini from the Grazini Ducati team. Can they continue their stellar start to 2022? Alex Rins, not quite sure that it's sunglasses weather right now for the Suzuki man, but I guess just trying to keep himself focused, trying to hide some of the nerves that will inevitably be hitting these riders. This is nerve-wracking stuff. This is tense. This is where these guys are really, their skills are put to the limit, their concentration, their focus, because they're just about to encounter a racetrack in conditions that they've never experienced before. It's a bit of a level playing field, this, isn't it? It's going to be a case of fortune favouring the brave. Jack Miller, normally he revels in these kind of conditions. Even Thriller Miller looks a little bit pensive as we count down towards race time here in Mandalika.
6 minutes to go then. Speaking, of course, earlier on, we were discussing potential strategies that might be deployed in a dry weather race, and the big talking point, I suppose, was Fabio Quartararo's determination to get to the front of the race and get a clear track, with the Ducatis looking to stop him doing so. In many ways, even though it's a wet race, that is still the aim for Fabio Quartararo, more because of the visibility here rather than any kind of issues with overheating front tyres. We're still expecting to see a little bit of spray, more than a little bit of spray. There will still be some standing water in patches of this racetrack. We've already heard from Piero Taramasso that there are still some patches of the virtual fan wall. Get ready to see this historic first Indonesian Grand Prix in 25 years. If we are going to see some spray, particularly in the early laps with the field all running together, it's going to be so important for these guys to try and get a clear track as soon as possible.
Yeah, Fabio Quartararo would not have known how perhaps significant that pole position was yesterday. He knew it was going to be good and crucial in dry conditions. Well, it might be absolutely vital now with, as Lewis said, the potential for spray hitting the riders that are in the chasing pack. An excellent weekend so far then for this young man, Fabio Di Gianantonio. Very, very limited experience, that catchy in rain conditions. This is going to be a tough test of the metal for these MotoGP riders. 5 minutes then to the race start here in Mandalika, and finally we can say there's going to be MotoGP race action in Indonesia. First visit to Southeast Asia since 2019.
Whether perhaps to identify that we haven't mentioned yet, who will certainly fancy his chances in conditions. Starts all the way back in 18th on the grid, the brother of this man, Marc Marquez, if you're just joining us, will not start this Grand Prix due to concussions and staying in the warm-up earlier on today, as some drizzle starts to fall, as Simon Crowbar lets us know from pit lane. But Alex Marquez, his brother, of course, took a sensational podium, his first podium in MotoGP in very wet conditions at Le Mans, and very nearly won that Grand Prix as he was chasing down Dylan Petrucci. He'll certainly be a rider who will have a big result on his hands potentially today. Certainly a big result than he thought when he qualified 18th yesterday.
Let's just hope then that that rain that's just starting to fall a little bit heavier again, as the team personnel are told to clear the grid, that it doesn't start falling as ferocious as we did about an hour ago, which caused this lengthy delay here for the MotoGP return to Indonesia for the first time since 1997. Understandably, some really tense, anxious-looking faces down there on the grid. Somebody give Alexis Bargo a glass of water. He looked like he got a real dry mouth. So here it is then. Finally, we're about to get underway in MotoGP here in Indonesia. Two Pramac Ducatis on the front row of the grid. Johan Zarco in third place. Jorge Martin starts from second place. But it's the reigning world champion Fabio Quartararo who starts from pole position in our first Indonesian Grand Prix in 25 long years. Don't go anywhere, folks. 20 laps of pure drama and theatre coming your way. MotoGP up next.
Who will be the rainmaster of Mandalika here in MotoGP? Fabio Quartararo, the reigning world champion, starts from pole position ahead of the Pramac Ducatis of Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco. Brad Binder heads the KTM Challenge from the front of the second row ahead of the reigning world championship leader, Enea Bastianini. Keep an eye out for the rookies. They're led by Fabio Di Gianantonio. He starts in the middle of row 4 with Marco Bezzecchi just behind him. Paul Espargaro on the fifth row. He is the sole Honda challenger in this Grand Prix due to the injury sustained by Marc Marquez earlier this morning. In wet conditions, with drizzle starting to fall once again, these are challenging conditions for the best riders in the world. Let's go racing in MotoGP.
So we've been waiting 72 minutes since we thought this Indonesian Grand Prix would be getting underway, and finally, as the rain just starts to fall, the warm-up lap then just So we've been waiting 72 minutes since we thought this Indonesian Grand Prix would be getting underway, and finally, as the rain just starts to fall, the warm-up lap then does. It's all gone swim.
He said they showed so much promise in Qatar, only for it to fall slightly flat on race day. Jack Miller giving us a wave. I don't think he'll be two-faced with these wet conditions. He's shown in the past just how good he can be in conditions slightly less wet than this, but certainly wet. But certainly wet. But yeah, Suzuki just did not deliver in the race in the end. Simon Crafar spoke following the race earlier this weekend. He said he reckons that the extra fuel they perhaps had to carry was something to do with that, of course, with the extra power from the new GSX RR engine. But Joan Mir has had a very poor weekend, due to start this Grand Prix down in 17th position. But we can go down to the pit lane now. Of course, the big story of race day so far is the absence from this Indonesian Grand Prix this afternoon. There's a horrendous accident in warm-up. Let's get an update on the 8-time world champion from his team boss, Alberto Puig, with Simon.
Alberto, Mark has been incredible this weekend. He almost pulled off something amazing yesterday. I love that he tried. He didn't manage it. But again today, what an incredible big crash. Something like from our day on the two-strokes, you know. I would really like to hear from you for the first time. How is he? And how long do you expect him to be away? But while we have you, also the good work that Paul has been doing, like, towards this race.
Well, you know, it's been quite strange because Mark had these 3 crashes, and we have to try to understand why. Because this crash from today was brutal. And frankly speaking, we need to analyze. You know, they brought here a different tire, and we have to understand everything. And at this moment it's difficult because our rider crashed, and I can't give you any precise info at this moment, but finally he had a massive crash, and we decided it was not correct under the circumstances after this concussion in the head to bring him to the track. So we agreed, and that's why he will not race. Regarding Paul, now, you know, everything changed. We have been here always with good weather, and suddenly we have a thunderstorm, so it's like completely new paper. We start from zero, and I think the rain, the wet races are different, and you need a special ability for this. Some guys take more risk, but it's very important to see the real condition of the track, because if it's wet, it's one thing. it hits a river, it's unrideable. And then I think the guys that are checking the track must decide whether it's safe or not.
One last thing about Paul. Looking from the outside, he looks to be working really methodically, like he's having some difficulties, but he seems to be working well. Look, watching from the outside, trying to get there, trying not to make mistakes. I would like to hear from your side how you think he's working.
Yeah, he's trying to do this, as you say. He's trying to stay cool and calm, even in the difficult times. And yeah, this is the target for this year. He knows he has the speed. He knows the bike is better than last year for him. So it's a matter of trying to stay cool when the situation is not easy. This weekend they brought a tire that is not fitting us. It was unexpected. So in the test he was super fast, and in the Grand Prix here he was not so fast. But he's trying to stay calm. But now with this story, it's another page.
Alberto, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Repsol Honda team manager Alberto Puig for coming to talk to us there after that horrible crash, which has sidelined Marc Marquez from this Grand Prix. There is further updates then on the bottom of your screens. I'm sure you saw that during Simon's chat with Alberto Puig. These current track conditions at the moment means we have a further delay. We were hoping to have the pit lane open at 14:55 to get the race underway at around 15:10 local time, but that is currently not possible as the BMW safety car and yet more claps of thunder punish our eardrums in our headsets here. We've seen some lightning bolts off into the distance as well at the moment. Tranmere, the 2021 MotoGP World Champion, he's looking all pretty relaxed about it, isn't he?
Happy he's looked all weekend, isn't it? As you can see, the standing water, that's slightly off the racetrack. That's in between turns, the inside of turns 6 and 7.
See that through there, Lewis, that even the four wheels of the BMW safety car, it was hitting standing water and starting to aquaplane. So let's hope and pray that we get some kind of break in this torrential rain, which at the moment has forced the late start of our first Indonesian Grand Prix in 25 years. We've waited so long. The Indonesian fans have waited so long for this moment. And unfortunately, the weather not playing ball right now. Of course, we're in a tropical climate, tropical part of the world. We can have weather conditions like this, but to fall, just 40 minutes away from the scheduled start of the MotoGP race, it feels so sorry for the fans. They come out in their snorkel for Mandalika right now.
Fabio Quartararo set to start this Grand Prix from pole position. We saw a shot moments ago of Marco Bezzecchi, who's due to start from 13th on the grid. What a good weekend he's been having, although his qualifying session perhaps didn't end as he'd intended, of course, with the crash in Q1, when he was certainly fancying his chances of getting through into the top 12. I think he's impressed as well right throughout his short, fortunately, MotoGP career so far. He was genuinely the fastest rookie in pre-season testing. He was leading the rookie challenge by quite some margin in Qatar before crashing out of that Grand Prix. And then, of course, right throughout the weekend, he looked pretty good in FP4. Of course, he was fastest for a lot of that session before being picked in the end by Franco Morbidelli and crashing Q1, denying the chance to compete in the top 12. But he's certainly a rider who's shown in the past that he's got a level of wet weather ability, and he's shown over the course of his MotoGP career, of course, just how much time he's got.
Let's quickly top down for some more reaction right now to the current state of play here in Mandalika. Sadly, we're not building up to 5 minutes away from the race start as we'd hoped to do at this stage. It's been a pretty difficult weekend. The factory Suzuki team with problems with Rupert Wanmi. Alex Rins climbing off his stick, better get himself on that third row of the grid. Let's hear the thoughts of Suzuki X-Star boss Livio Supo. Down with Simon.
Yeah, for the recent MotoGP fans, Livio will be new, but Livio was around a lot of years before and has a lot of experience, seen a lot of things. Livio, can you tell us what the team is going through at the moment and how the weekend's been going until now?
Well, in reality, there's nothing more we can do than wait. Wait and see what happens. Clearly, the track at the moment is not in a condition you can race. We are waiting information from Prix. Really, of course, bikes are already set up for wet, but there's nothing you can really do at the moment.
When you say bikes, you change both machines for both riders, or you change just one?
One, but then we will see.
Okay. And Livio, the weekend until now, I spoke to you in warm-up this morning, but it was a little short chat. Can you tell us, the listeners, how it's been going until now for Suzuki? And did you find the answer you were looking for in warm-up? I know you made some setup changes, especially to Chuanya's machine.
Yeah, let's say that the new rear structure of the tire has had an influence, especially on riding style. I think at the end it's more a riding style than bike. That's my feeling, personal feeling. This morning he improved the feeling, so sure, it's an improvement comparing with Friday and Saturday. While Alex, I mean, the position of the grid is not perfect, but his feeling was never bad. This morning he changed the bike, he tested in the second exit, he tested with a medium tire. It didn't feel good. So now, anyway, we should have started with a soft if it were sunny. But also, I think both have potential to do better than expected. That's my feeling.
Okay. Livio, thank you for your time.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Livio Supo. As you can see there at the bottom of your screen, the pit been open, delayed due to weather conditions. We just popped into the Tech 3 KTM garage and saw Remy Gardner's logo that he carries around with him on his chest plate. He's a surf dude, isn't he, from Australia, Remy? And at the moment, that's probably what you need, a bit of surfing here in Mandalika. Ralph Hernandez, a bit tough start, a bit of a baptism of fire, I guess you could say. MotoGP was always going to be the level in MotoGP now, so competitive, so tough, not just in terms of closeness from the machinery, but the closeness and the talent of the riders as well. And tough start to finish last in the season opening Qatar. When you think how awesome, how fantastic Ralph Hernandez was in Moto 2 last year, he said he's got to sort of recalibrate his brain to understand that it is going to take time. He has got to be patient. Although patience is not a character virtue you normally associate with professional motorcycle racing, is it?
No, and rookies specifically have got a bit of experience, not just this weekend, but generally in the wet conditions. We did have a bit of wet weather, as you can imagine, in the part of the world that they were testing at Sepang. In the first pre-season test, we saw rain on the final afternoon of 3-day test there, and the rookies, the exception of Fabio Di Gianantonio, who was slightly unwell at that point, they all got some track time in the wet conditions, so they do have a level of experience in those conditions, which they were hoping to put to good use today. Well, what can we expect from the factory, a brilliant team, if we do get underway in these wet conditions? Of course, Aleix Spargaro, he starts pretty well up. Of course, he starts 10th, Maverick Vinales way down in 19th, but wet conditions could provide them with an opportunity. How does Massimo Rivola feel ahead of this Grand Prix? Simons with it.
Yeah, Massimo, I know you'll be focusing on the race today, right in front of you, but I wanted to ask and so let the listeners know your thoughts while we have this delay on. I've been watching, obviously, closely the last few years, and Aprilia is taking steps forward non-stop. Really impressive, and I've been saying on our shows that I believe now that the rest of the paddock, there'll be quite a few riders genuinely interested in riding your machine. I think it's got to the level now, it's proving to be competitive everywhere. I'd really like to get your thoughts on it.
Well, thanks so Simon. It's nice to have this kind of feeling, and it's nice that you guys have this kind of feeling. I think that, if there are some riders interested, that's fine, but we have also very good two riders, and I hope to keep them for the few years. I hope so. By the way, every year we are doing a small step forward. We are getting closer and closer. Still, it's not enough. And once we reach the top, for sure, it won't be enough because everybody are pushing like hell every year and actually every race. So I'm confident we are working fine. We need to get Maverick in the feeling, as actually today was quite good. Aleix was as well also very good and consistent. So to be honest, for today I was hoping for a long dry race. It doesn't look like it's gonna be like that, but let's see. I mean, we are ready. I mean, we know that we are part of the game. We are in the game and we want to play.
I saw Maverick had two setups, one on each bike. And was it a setup change that helped him find what feeling he wanted?
Yeah, we did a setup change today to try to get a better feeling, and it worked.
I think now Maverick is in a phase where we need to get this feeling before getting the best possible bike. First we need to get this feeling, and this way it works. So it's a bit of a pity that he cannot prove during the race that the changes were fine on a dry condition, but we'll see. At least we did a step for sure.
Last question is, have you used this latest machine in the wet before?
No, never. I don't think many of us did it. So, well, if we manage to race at some point today, I think it's going to be very interesting.
Massimo, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, we should actually congratulate Aleix Spargaro on the subject of a Aleix Spargaro, if you've been following him on social media earlier this week, he sent out a bit of a call to arms to the Indonesian fans to try and get it over the 1 million Instagram followers mark. He promised to give away his helmet, almost to the point to throw it into the crowd if he made it. He started the week 60,000 followers away, and we're delighted to say that with a day or two to spare, Aleix Spargaro succeeded. The Indonesian fans tipped him over the 1 million followers mark. So should we get underway, should this race take place and Aleix Spargaro reach the finish of it, those fans could be lifting their hands ready to catch Aleix Spargaro's crush on me in an hour or two's time.
Yeah, good job by Aleix Spargaro. And finally, after all the delays, we did eventually get the pit lane rubber duck. It was bound to happen, and finally Suzuki, they didn't let us down, did they? Well, those beaches have been beautiful, sun-drenched and sun-kissed all week so far. Unfortunately, just the biggest moment of the weekend. Right now, we'd be thinking or hoping we'd be falling second or third lap in the first Indonesian Grand Prix for 25 years. But at the moment, all we can do is look skywards and hope that at some point the rain will abate and we're going to be able to get a shortened 20 lap race underway. The pit lane, as we said, it has been delayed due to the weather conditions. The open pit lane was due to be open at 14:55. That was about 7 minutes ago, with an ideal delayed race start of 3:10 local time. Well, as you can see, that will not be currently happening. As soon as we have any further information about a potential race start, of course, you'll be the first ones to know. Fair play to the fans as well. They're thinking how they're persevering. I guess you could say in this part of the world they're used to this kind of torrential rain. I think we're sure I was told by the locals we're kind of at the back end of the rainy season, so we've been really unfortunate to have been stuck with this weather. Let's keep our fingers crossed, let's keep everything crossed so that these fans who've waited such a long time to see the best in the world in MotoGP race here in Indonesia, that they get to see some track acts. As we mentioned in the warm-up session, what a day it was 2 weeks ago. What a night it was for the Gresini Ducati team. This man taking an emotional first win since the tragic loss of the team boss Fausto Gresini, the team's first win in 16 years. A happy birthday to the team owner, the widow of Fausto Gresini, Nadia Adovani. Happy birthday to you.
Jorge Martin, starting from the front row of the grid, he starts in second place. It's the first time he started from a front row where he's not been on pole position, of course. He's talking into his strategy, I think, for the race, putting in a few lengths of the swimming pool that we call the start-finish straight just outside our window ahead of us. Franco Morbidelli, of course, who you saw while we were hearing from Simon a few moments ago, has that 3-place grid penalty for a practice start infraction. I'd say that's about 6 lengths of a swimming pool at the moment that Morbidelli has to try and make up on the grid. He's dropped from 12th on the grid to 15th. Of course, the absence of Marc Marquez has now put him back up to 14th.
Yeah, Marc Marquez, after a disastrous 2 days here in Mandalika, 3 crashes at turns 10, 11 and 12 throughout the course of the weekend. He actually was praying for rain yesterday. He didn't mind the wet race. Well, he's got his wish, but unfortunately, Marc Marquez, if you are just joining for the first time, of course, we were hoping to be underway here in Indonesia. Sadly, this torrential rain has delayed the start. And if you're hoping to tune in right now to see MotoGP action involving Marc Marquez, well, sadly, we haven't got either, because Marc Marquez ruled out after getting a concussion in that high-speed, high-side at turn 7 in this morning's warm-up session. There's Brad Binder's crew looking on. Jackman, Daniel Patak, Johnny Eyre, Mark Lloyd, known as Pop in the paddock to so many people. They were very, very confident
Well, last time we saw weather conditions something resembling this, Brad Binder was on slicks, of course,
Yeah,
when he was winning the Austrian Grand Prix.
Binder sat down in the garage now telling his Michelin technician, yeah, don't bother with the wets, mate, I'll just go out on slicks, no problem.
Yeah, he walked on water to win that Grand Prix back in the summer of last year, of course. An extraordinary end to that race, of course, with rain in the closing stages. Brad Binder on a tightrope, stuck it out on slicks. Well, as mentioned a moment ago, Jorge Martin set to start from the front row of the grid today. He's lining up second on the grid. Let's get some pre-race thoughts from him with Simon.
Jorge, thanks for coming out of the garage and talking to us. You looked great at the first two opening races, you know, really competitive at both. Looking really good here. I heard you say that you felt good in the dry coming into this race. Tell us about how your weekend's gone until now.
Yeah, sure. From the first moment out on the track, for sure, when there were some mixed conditions, I was struggling a little bit to get the confidence. But when it was full dry, I was really competitive. Our main issue was to find the perfect rear tire. It was the main problem for today. But afterwards, when they reduced the rest 20 laps, we were going to put the soft. But in the first case, we were going to put the medium. So I was confident and focused on the last. 7-8 laps, but finally, yeah, raining. We need to wait. The problem is that we didn't try, but I mean, I hear there's a lot of grip here. Wet conditions, I feel great with my Ducati, and I'm expecting, yeah, let's see if we can race, and if we can race for sure, I think we can be up in the front.
Oh, hey, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Jorge Martin. Always good of him to come and have a chat. Of course, these riders will be feeling the tension. Always difficult scenario when you're not quite sure when you're going to get the call to arms and have to go out and race in these, at the moment, treacherous conditions. We can see the safety car. Wow, there's just been a massive bolt of lightning light up the grey and gloomy sky outside of our commentary box. You can probably hear as well. We can, through our headsets, get more big claps of thunder. I feel so sorry for the organisers here in Mandalika, of course. There's been so much work behind the scenes, not just over the last few months or so, but over many years to bring MotoGP back to this part of the world. Friday night, Saturday night, I was looking at the rehearsals for the new grid ceremony, which we saw for the first time in MotoGP in Qatar, where we get to see the Tower, the Champion Tower Trophy, the race-winning prize here in Mandalika. Of course, the president himself is present here today and was going to be part of that special new grid ceremony. Unfortunately, these torrential conditions curtailed all that. Such a shame for so many people. Lewis, of course, you've got to understand and get a taste of just how popular MotoGP is in this part of the world. You attended that amazing pre-event where the riders did a parade in downtown Jakarta. It was like Beatlemania. It was like the Rolling Stones in town. These guys are treated like rock stars. Whoa! Well, we said that there was some claps of thunder and bolts of lightning. What a get that is by our camera crews out on circuit. Actually, a special site just gives you an idea of just how troublesome the weather is proving here. But yeah, coming back to the pre-event, Lewis, you were pleasure enough to be there and witness firsthand just how massively popular MotoGP here is in this part of the world. It really was like Beatlemania. Look at that. Off in the distance, we are getting the thunderstorms that were forecast.
Yes, it's a spectacular sight, although not a spectacular sight that I think anyone wanted to watch.
Now is actually shaking because this thunder is so fierce.
Yeah, I was about to say, the parade that we saw on Wednesday was like nothing I've ever experienced. Neither was that. The feeling under our shoes in this commentary box, which was shaking with this light little storm. Yeah, it was a tremendous day on Wednesday, it has to be said. The reception the riders got was nothing I've ever experienced. The parade that took place that morning in Jakarta from the President's Palace, the riders got to meet the President here in Indonesia and have some breakfast with him before they headed off through the streets. And spoke about this earlier on the weekend. There was a real Tour de France sort of vibe to it. The fans lined on the side of the road with the ability to give high fives and fist bumps to the riders. They put on a great show as well for the fans who came out to watch. We saw Marc Marquez, Pecco Bagnaia, Jim Miller doing burnouts and giving them some real entertainment. And you just got the impression that this was amongst the best experience of some of these people's lives. They really do live and breathe MotoGP in this part of the world. Perhaps only football rivals MotoGP and motorcycle racing as a whole for popularity in this part of the world. They really do get behind it, and it's fitting that MotoGP does race in this part of the world. And yeah, the reception of the riders got incredible. Plus, Spargaro spoke, as you mentioned a moment ago, that they felt like rock stars coming through the city centre, and were then essentially mobbed when they got to the nearby Kempinski Hotel where the parade came to a close. It was a memorable start this week in Indonesia. The welcome we've had from the locals and from the organisers has been absolutely top-notch. As you say, they put in an enormous amount of work to really bring this circuit up to standard. Right the way from the pre-season test, even in the last month, they've really done a lot of hard work on the infrastructure around here, the roads around the circuit, the grandstand. Even a month ago, this circuit was unrecognisable to what we have now. They really have done a tremendous job as well with the track circuit. It's perhaps not the ultimate solution that we want, but it is certainly a step in the right direction.
So Aleix Spargaro, Alex Rins, all they can do is play the waiting game and hope for a break in this weather. As we said, those thunderclaps are getting so ferocious out of our country, but was literally shaking. That's no exaggeration. I'm actually relieved that our dear colleague Amy Reynolds is actually not here. She's pretty fond of the old Thunder. Hope you're well back in the UK, Amy. Of course, looking forward to hooking up with you again when the European season kicks off in Portimao. Love to Sam and Freddie. You will be relieved, I'm sure, watching from home, that you are back home in the UK and not experienced this torrential thunderstorms. To continue to give the latest updates then to the paddock and the pit lane. Fabio Quartararo still just want to keep himself cool, keep himself relaxed. Will he hopefully get to start from his first pole position since the Catalunya battle in Barcelona last June? Now that here we go there. The pit lane is not going to open until 15:45 local time at the earliest. So the next update we are going to get will be in 25 minutes. So obviously, as you'd expect, the race organisers, the Mandalika organisation, in cooperation with the FIM, with Dorna and IRTA, they are giving ourselves the best possible chance of having this Grand Prix of Indonesia to take place. The pit lane will not open then now before 15:45 local time. There's going to be constant monitoring, of course, of the weather forecast. We've got the sophisticated weather prediction system in place. Let's pop back down to pit lane and talk to Simon Crafar, the first rookie into Q2 this year. A truly brilliant performance in Q1 yesterday by Fabio Di Giannantonio, only beaten by Pecco Bagnaia. When you looked at the list of names who were behind it, it was a truly astonishing performance to get himself through into Q2. He was due to start the race from 11th place. Let's hear from the Gradini man down in pit lane with Simon.
Fabio, your effort yesterday in qualifying made us all smile. It was pretty impressive considering the amount of time you've had on a MotoGP bike. I'd like to ask you, I'd like to hear what that was like, putting the lap together, and what it's like sitting here about to go out in a wet race soon, and you've never ridden in full wet. So tell us about those things.
Well, I was so happy about yesterday because from Qatar we did a great step on the setup of the bike, and I was really confident, especially on the front, so I could push really hard on especially in the qualifying for time attack. Honestly, in Q2 I was not, let's say, 100% because I did the FP3, FP4, Q1, also Q2, so I was a bit tired, honestly. For this also, I couldn't reply the 31.6 of the Q1, but yeah, it was a great lap, honestly. I was super happy about that. And yeah, I'm here waiting. Honestly, it's a pity that at the moment we cannot race because the conditions are what they are. But I'm just waiting. For sure, before a race, you are always so focused and try to be in the zone. But now everything is a bit lost, because we are just waiting. We don't know what to do. Maybe we go out, maybe we go in, maybe we cannot go. It's a pity. And also, I would like to race in a normal condition with wet, but normal condition, because I would like to try the MotoGP bike on rain. But at the moment, seems a bit too much, let's say.
Fabio, I imagine the team and Ducati have so much experience in the wet, they just put something that they tell you will work. Do you have any input on how you want the setting, or you just trust them and go right?
Well, for sure we start from our base setup of the dry, and we do all the modifyings for the wet. but honestly, I don't have any feedbacks. Also, them say to me, go out and enjoy because we don't know anything. So also for me, it would be my first time, and yeah, I'm waiting.
Fabio, thank you for your time. Good luck this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Scenes you didn't expect to see at 3:15 on race day Sunday at Indonesian Grand Prix. The tyre pit lane is leading an audience here.
Well, to be honest, let's hope this works. Apparently, this is a local rain ritual. Vanished away these clouds. Let's hope this lady's effort pay off because we all want to see a MotoGP race take place here in Indonesia.
Well, if the rain stops, we were going to race. She should get the 25 points, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. She got a special award at the end of the season from the FIM and from Dorna. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we are going to get a race that we've all come here for, the first Grand Prix of Indonesia in 25 years. There you can see there at the previous screens, pit lane will not open before 15:45 local time.
The bigger issue we may have, in addition to the obvious issue, which is the quantity of rain that's falling, is the sunlight. It's due to get dark here around about 6:30, just before 6:30 local time. So we've got around 3 hours to play with before it starts to get dark here, and you just wouldn't be able to race even if it was bone dry. So we are going to get to the stage at some point where that does become a deciding factor. But of course, at the moment, still no reason to panic necessarily yet. We've still got plenty of time for conditions to hopefully improve. Of course, with Moto 3 and Moto 2 having already raced earlier today, this is rather different to perhaps a scenario that might be coming into people's heads of Silverstone in 2018. We have only one more race to go. Marc Marquez was hoping to start it. And speaking to our colleagues at the Zone Spanish TV, he's been speaking that he feels good, a little bit stunned, but he is okay. We of course saw Marquez on his feet and of course heading to the hospital via the air ambulance, but under his own steam, on his own 2 feet. We, of course, hope to see Marc Marquez back in action in 2 weeks' time when we return to Temple 3 October for the Argentinian Grand Prix, another circuit, much like the race that follows that, Circuit of the Americas, for the Grand Prix of the Americas, 2 circuits that Marc Marquez had great success at in the past.
Yeah, good to hear. Mark did make his way back to the paddock and he was able to talk to Spanish TV, as Lewis said. He was stunned. We've all been stunned by his crash-strewn weekend in here. That bruising crash in the warm session this morning at turn 7 when he was violently flicked a good 15 feet in the air. I mean, it was one of the worst crashes I've ever seen, and I've been around this MotoGP paddock since 1996. The good news, of course, was that Mark was relatively okay. He was concussed. Bad news ruled out of this Indonesian Grand Prix, which at the moment, unfortunately, has not yet got going. We're waiting patiently, as is the entire pit lane, hoping and praying that we will get the race action underway as soon as we possibly can. Rasley, of course, from With You RNF team. We just saw there Darren Binder looking as relaxed and as cool and calm as ever. Nothing will freeze for the South African at all. Lynn Jarvis there looking on as well. Will Fabio Quartararo get the chance to start from that pole position? The 1:31.067 set. Just over 24 hours ago now, as yet another big bolt of lightning illuminates the sky out of our commentary box position here, and again there's another big clap of thunder. Unfortunately, the forecasts are absolutely spot on. When we walked into the media centre this morning around 7:30 a.m. local time, the first journalist that came up to me went, "Hey Matt, you do realise that there's going to be thunderstorms at 3 o'clock this afternoon?" I was trying to be as optimistic as I possibly could and say, "Hey, yeah, but we know how quickly the weather can change in this part of the world." Sadly, for once, that forecast was bang on the money. Let's pop back down to pit lane again and talk to Simon Craig. I'd like to say he grabbed a quick word with Aussie Jack Miller. Down to you, Simon.
Jack, you're famous for being able to adapt quickly to changing conditions. Can you give us a bit of a run through how the weekend felt until now and what you're hoping for?
Yeah, the weekend felt all right. I mean, starting 9th on the grid definitely wasn't what I was after yesterday in qualifying, but that's where we are. And no, I mean, a lot of things have changed today. You know, we planned on the 27-lap race, but then they got knocked back, and then the rains come in, so that sort of changed our approach again. So, no, I mean, 27-lap race was going to be a big old survival race, I think, trying to manage the tyres and whatnot. 20 laps sort of brought back into safe range, let's say, where you'll be able to push a bit more. Now having wet, you know, this should stop pretty soon, and when it does stop, I'm assuming it's going to pull up pretty quickly. And yeah, the track won't dry completely. I think some areas will become dry towards the end of the race. But no, fingers crossed it just stopped now and we can get back on the way.
Jack, thanks for your time. Good luck.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Jack Miller, echoing the sentiments of all of us here in Indonesia. We do hope that we can get underway. If you are just tuning in, we have a delayed start. Fabio Quartararo, not obviously expecting any action soon. He's got back in his team clothing. Oh, dearie me. Terrible mistake. Was that ice cream? Oh, that's the first mistake Fabio Quartararo has made all weekend so far. That's a little bit of a red-faced moment for our top man, our reigning world champion. Now, this lady is doing some sterling work now. She's been out on the grid. She is trying to banish away this rain. We sincerely hope it does work, as Fabio Quartararo makes his first mistake of the weekend, dropping his ice cream tub. Let's hope it's the only mistake he makes of the weekend as well. Nothing that the riders and the teams can do, of course. All they can do is wait patiently and hope that we do get a break in this torrential rain. Pre-race, it was looking very, very good for Ducati. They had 2 bikes on the front row, 4 bikes that qualified in the top 6, including round 1 winner, Baccini. And we've already heard the thoughts of the Catanova rider Jack Miller. Let's pop back down to Simon, who's got sporting director Paolo Ciabatti with him. Down to you guys.
Yeah, I was just saying to Paolo, we've been talking a lot about conditions and that already. What I would love to hear from Paolo's point of view is your 8 very impressive Ducati riders, you know, some rookies, some very experienced. I'd love to hear your thoughts on each of them if you have time.
Yeah, sure. I think plenty of time. Let's hope the rain stops pretty soon and we can have a race today, because so many spectators and the president of Indonesia is here. So we must have a race, I think. What can I say? I think we were impressed positively by all the riders, obviously, starting from Enea. You know, he did a fantastic job in Qatar, riding impressively. It's his second season in MotoGP, but for sure to be able to qualify good and then to be so strong in the race and make no mistakes was amazing. Unfortunately, if we talk about Pecco and Jack, obviously Pecco, that crash, you know that we were trying a few things during the weekend, so probably our riders lost a little bit of confidence, so we couldn't really feel comfortable on the bike. And from the next side, unfortunately, had an electronic problem, so our fault. Here, I think we saw that we had 7 riders in the top 12, and the 13th rider is an Ducati Bezzecchi. So, I mean, all of them super fast. If we go back to Bezzecchi and Marini, I think we should hear that they can do very good, especially Marco is impressive here. I think Luca was very good during the test, but also for him, being on a 22 bike, he lost a little bit of confidence in Qatar, but he's getting it back here. And was for Di Gian Antonio, wow, Q2. So Fabio is also a rookie, which is doing very good. And obviously the Martin Zarco, we don't have to say much because they have been so strong all over last year and they continue to be very, very strong here, starting from the first row. So I think we will have a wet race. I think it's probably in a way better for us because if we do a shorter race, 20 laps with Fabio Quartararo, I think it would be very difficult if we can get a good start because he had an impressive pace on dry conditions. But this condition, I think, will help us a little bit more. And then we see, obviously, rainy condition always a kind of risk and gamble. But all our riders are very comfortable in these conditions. So looking forward to the race.
Paolo, through testing, winter testing, it looked like you had found a faster engine, and Ducati never stopped to lost a bit of confidence. As you said, I can imagine soon that bike will be better than the 21 bike, but have you found the direction now, do you believe?
Yes, as you know, there are 3 different options of Ducati engines available this year. There is a 21 version, which is what the Gresini riders and Bezzecchi have. Then there is a what we call a hybrid version of 2022 with some features of a 21, and this is for the two factory riders. As spectators may know, the factory riders, you can choose one engine. On the independent team, you can use also different specs for different riders. But Jack and Pecco have this hybrid version, and then we have the two Pramac riders and Marini on the 22. I think the 22 showed here that is as good as. Hopefully, there is some room for improvement, but I think the main problem was because we were trying a system that was probably not yet mature, as you can say, to be used in the race. So once the riders, we decided kind of to go back to something more standard in Qatar. Riders had lost a little bit of confidence. So I think here we went back to a more normal setup, and the results prove that this is the right direction. So we have time during the season to bring into the race something new.
Paolo, last question for you. In the future, I'm thinking if that engine is faster, the 22 engine, and we get to somewhere like Austria and you've had time to develop it, do you expect it to start to shine there?
As you know, once you make a choice, it's made for the whole season, no? So we have to stay with the selection which has been made. And obviously, we think, honestly, to be totally transparent, it's so difficult to improve an engine like the engine we were using last year, because it already reached a very high level of performances. So obviously, engineers always try to do a little bit better, but sometimes the difference is really small. So it goes back to the feeling of the rider on that engine more than on the actual performance.
Paolo, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks to Ducati Lenovo team manager Paolo Ciabatti with Simon Crayford. We just saw there is the president of Indonesia. That's how big this event is for the nation of Indonesia. Mr. Joko Widodo present, hopefully to see some premier class race action here. The local announcers are doing their best to keep the fans entertained. We've just heard them there, I think, just singing the national anthem. Of course, this was a man who rode with 20 riders on that special parade in Jakarta, which Lewis attended. Gave us a real insight and a real flavour into just how popular MotoGP is in this part of the world. It's great to have Mr. Widodo here present for what we hope is going to be a landmark and milestone day for Indonesian motorsport. A landmark day, of course, for MotoGP as well. We talk about how Spain is kind of the European heartbeat of the championship. I think very much the rest of the world heartbeat for MotoGP is very much in this Southeast Asian nation. They love their motorcycle racing. Marc Marquez flags waving. Unfortunately, when we do get underway here in Lombok, we will not see Marquez in action. Got to say, they're doing a pretty good job of keeping up their spirits, Lewis, here, because we've had a pretty lengthy delay. We should have been underway in MotoGP nearly half an hour ago now, but the crowd are still enjoying their day out.
Yeah, I guess they'll say if we've had to wait 25 years for Grand Prix motorcycle racing in the Premier Class to return to this country, what's another couple of hours? Pol Espargaro starting. Well, when we got on the plane to fly out here to Indonesia, we certainly didn't expect Pol Espargaro to be lining up 16th on the grid for this Grand Prix. Of course, the changes to the tyres, Michelin bringing this stiffer construction of tyre, the different casing to deal with the heat that we were expecting here. Honda out. Pol Espargaro was fastest on 2 of the 3 days at the pre-season test here back in February. Really, really competitive in just about every condition on all days. But Espargaro, once we arrived here in Indonesia, hasn't been able to enjoy the same kind of feeling at this Grand Prix. And was rather critical of Michelin. Of course, Michelin having to make a decision based on the 3 days of data that they had at the test, and decided that they had to bring this different casing of the rear tyre. They were fearful of the heat and of blisters, causing them some real problems. We had track temperatures mid-60s centigrade on Thursday here at the Pertamina Mandalika circuit, so you can understand why Michelin were a little bit concerned and a little bit cautious. But Pol Espargaro was saying that their bike simply wasn't made for tyres like the ones that we have here that haven't been run since Buriram in 2018, and it simply caught Repsol Honda out.
Yeah, just a little update from some of our Indonesian colleagues who've been messaging media WhatsApp group that the MotoGP media keep involved in. And apparently that lady who we saw on the grid was what they call in these parts of the world a rain handler. It's a term for people in Indonesian society who are believed to be able to control the rain or the weather. Generally, rain handlers control the weather by moving clouds. The service they usually use for big events such as weddings, musics and concerts. Well, let's hope the rain handlers manage to handle this weather. That's a great embrace between two men who've done so much together to bring love to a country that loves our sport, MotoGP. Dorna CEO, of course, Carmelo Espeleta, embrace of Indonesia. These two men, of course, have worked tirelessly behind the scenes for weeks, months and years to bring MotoGP back to Indonesia. There were two Indonesian Grand Prix at the Central Circuit near Jakarta back in 1996, 97. Popularity of MotoGP in Southeast Asia has ballooned and rocketed over the last 20 years or so. I remember going to Malaysia and Sepang when Sepang was first built back in 1999. They struggled to get 10,000 gate. Now you can get 150,000 fans coming to Sepang. It's all great to have international races, to bring the sport to new audience, to bring the sport to where they love MotoGP. As we race in Thailand, we race in Malaysia, we race in this part of the world, and we're hoping that we get to race in Indonesia in 2022 as well. Stick with us, be patient.
It's been one of the regrets, hasn't it, amongst many of the our hearts go out to everyone who's been affected over the course of this pandemic. Well, of course, it's prevented MotoGP to coming to places like Sepang, and of course we're waiting later in the year to go to Mategi and to Buriram, as well as mentioned, and Phillip Island. Very, very popular venues with very, very passionate support, where we're hoping to be able to return to later in the year.
Has Fabio Quartararo stolen your flip-flops there, Lewis?
It's the right size feet, I have to say. My feet, my shoes more resemble canoes, which will be quite useful actually in conditions such as these. Yeah. I think I'd be well set.
Get your flippers and your snorkel out. I think that's what you need.
Well, here's an onboard lap with the difference then of the Pertamina Mandalika circuit. You're inside the safety car heading into turn one. You can see on screen the standing water still on the circuit. Difficult to really tell from this camera angle whether the conditions are easing or not. Just popped out of the commentary box around 10 minutes ago, and the rain was still falling very heavily indeed. Of course, they're trying to clear some of the water, do whatever they can, of course, so that once conditions, if they do improve to the stage where we can go racing, the track conditions don't take too long to sweep up and clear some of that standing water away. So they're really working round the clock here to keep the track in as good a condition as possible. So once we do get notice that a race start could be possible, that quick restart procedure, that 15-minute start procedure, can be commenced.
Yeah, I'm trying to remain optimistic, Lewis, as we always do in the commentary box here in MotoGP, but all those hills that we can see off in the distance around this magnificent Mandalika circuit, at the moment you can't see them, such as the heavy cloud cover. The local authorities and the local organisation, as we said, they're doing their best to keep the fans entertained in the grandstands. This is Franco Uncini and Loris Capirossi.
We've spoken about the passionate support that they have for MotoGP in this part of the world. They also think it is a great source of pride as well for MotoGP to be visiting this part of the world. We mentioned earlier on, the welcome from the locals here has been absolutely second to none. They really have embraced the arrival of MotoGP in this part of the world. You can see the excitement on your screens there. They really do live for this stuff.
I never thought I'd come to a MotoGP race in Indonesia on a stunning island like Lombok and go out for dinner the first night like we did as a big group, Lewis, to a Mexican restaurant where I was being talked in a Cockney slang by one of the waiters. His Cockney was better than mine, to be honest. Top man, as you say, we've had such a fantastic reception here in Indonesia. It's a long, long wait that we've had to endure before the World Championship came here 25 years ago. That's such a long time ago. That was my second season in the paddock, 1997. Blimey, I was a whippersnapper back then, 24 years of age. I feel like a proper old man now.
So I wonder what the debrief will be then as they return to the pit lane. Of course, we're expecting perhaps the next update very, very shortly.
Well, it's a bad sign, isn't it? You can just see the pace of those windscreen wipers on the BMW safety car. That gives you an indication of just how strong the rainfall is still falling. Franco Mancini and Loris Capirossi, they've done a fair few laps out there already, haven't they? So there's a further update then that's just filtering through from race direction. Initially, the pit lane wasn't going to be open before 15:45 local time. It's now 15:36. That's been pushed back by a further 15 minutes at least. The pit lane will not open before 4 p.m. local time now. So that's about another 24, 23 minutes away. As we say, we'll keep our fingers crossed that by that stage of proceedings, there will have been some break in this weather, and we will finally be helped to hear those 300 horsepower MotoGP bikes fire up and power around what will be a wet Mandalika circuit. But let's hope that these fans get what they've come to see. This man fighting hard to retain his MotoGP World Championship crown.
Fabio Quartararo's changed into his civvies, so he's not expecting a restart anytime soon. Of course, he's got half an hour to play with as the Indonesian fans start to show us some of the moves, whether that's a dance with or whether he's simulating twisting the throttle of a motorcycle. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, some quality dad dancing to fill your time, and it's certainly entertaining. Fabio Quartararo, I'm not sure whether he's going to engage in a dance-up with this guy. He is a little bit. He's showing some of his own moves.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Fabio loving it. We're certainly loving it. That's going to help ease the tension and ease the stress that will inevitably going around it. Yeah, you're famous. You've had your moment in the spotlight here in Mandalika. He's got some moves, that guy, hasn't he? There's nothing going to dampen the enthusiasm of that
He's
man
laying
there
down the gauntlet,
in
isn't
the
he?
blue T-shirt. Can we have a dance-off, please, between that man in the crowd
Come on,
and
Fabio.
Fabio Quartararo? Come on, let's have a Strictly Come Dancing show getting underway here in Mandalika. How come it's taken us so long to find this guy? Absolutely brilliant, loving it. We've loved life in Long, but yeah, come on, let's keep going. Superb. Fabio Quartararo, he absolutely loved it. Come on, Fabio, we need to see your moves. We know you've got great moves out on circuit. Let's see some off-track swagger. Come on, we know you've got it. We know you've got those moves in you. Oh, he's not going to do it, is he?
Maybe we'll see them on the podium later on if he ends up there.
Yeah, actually, maybe he's a little bit too frightened of being shown up by the guy in the crowd. Some refreshments being taken on board by our round one winner, Anea Bastianini. Is he going to get the chance to add to his 25 points already collected in Doha? There is the story, unfortunately. Of the afternoon here in Mandalika. We did get a Moto 3 Grand Prix, we did get a shortened Moto 2 Grand Prix, and then just towards the back end of that Moto 2 race, actually there was a few rain spots, wasn't there, in that Moto 2. Scrivier knows what it takes to get a podium finish around in this part of the world. Finally, better late than never, at least we've got a bike engine fired up in pit lane. Let's hope that bike is going to get ridden in anger at some stage. We're 20 minutes away from the next update. Pit lane will not open before 4 p.m. local time.
Well, you can see everyone obviously huddled up under the shelter. They've been using that shelter all weekend to really keep themselves out of the sunlight, keep themselves in the shade through practice. Me and our colleague Matt Dunn walked down pit lane on Thursday lunchtime, and they had fans outside all the pit boxes to try and keep everybody cool. It's certainly been the heat that's been the main challenge provided by the weather this weekend. Of course, that was the cause of the initial delay or the initial shortening of the race distance. Let's head down into pit lane. We've already seen a very relaxed Fabio Quartararo down in pit lane, enjoying some of the scenes in the grandstands. Let's hear the words from his team boss, Mayo Marigali. He's inside.
Mayo, this must be heartbreaking for you, you know, seeing the rider, your rider, come through practice qualifying as the favourite, really, and especially in my eyes, I really thought he was the man to beat. The only one looking like on rails here when everyone else is struggling, and now it's rained and changed everything. Please give us your thoughts.
Yeah, it's a really pity. We are, as you can imagine, disappointed also because we did a 3-day test here 4 weeks ago. We did a really good job. We prepared this race in the best way as possible. We started very well. Morbidelli, for me, he could also start from the first row without a crash yet in qualifying. Now, basically, we throw away all the data we gather in 5 days, basically. But I'm really now doubting if we can start, because apparently the tarmac doesn't drain. There is a lot of water, so I don't know until when we will be able to postpone the start of the race.
Getting back to Morbidelli, I was really happy to see the old Franco flashes of him come back. From inside the box, do you feel he's back on track?
Yeah, definitely. He's very happy now. Every time he wants to push, he's fast. He got back the confidence, the speed. Even in Qatar, for me, he looked much better compared to the winter test, and here even more. It's for sure a good and important point for us, because now we can really compare the two rider data during the race weekend, and as you know, one can push the other one, and that's our aim.
Mayo, thank you for your time, and I hope you get to go racing.
Me too.
Yeah, thanks to Simon, thanks to Monster Energy Yamaha team manager, Maya Merigali. It was a real tough start, wasn't it, for the factory Yamaha team, Yamaha in general, a couple of weeks ago over in Qatar. Fabio Quartararo, what a difference a couple of weeks can make. It kind of just shows the unpredictable nature of this year's World Championship. The world champion struggling, 9th place and over 10.5 seconds back of this man in Qatar, yet he comes to a brand new circuit here in Mandalika and has kind of the least of all problems with this new harder case in Michelin rear tyre. He was looking forward to making the soft rear work in dry conditions, which unfortunately we are not going to get, of course, because even if the rain stops, it's not going to dry up sufficiently quickly enough for a dry Indonesian Grand Prix. That sort of expression there, the raised eyebrows from Aleix Espargaro's crew chief, Antonio Jimenez there. The body language as well, hand on hips, kind of sums up where we're at, really, unfortunately, here in Indonesia. Everybody just playing the waiting game and looking skywards and keeping close eyes on the weather radars, the weather technology. Can we glean anything from that little map there as we again look at all the local dignitaries? I really do hope that we can get some MotoGP race action in here, because it would be the perfect way to end what's been such a brilliant weekend all round. As Lewis touched upon, we had a fantastic welcome when we first arrived here in Jakarta, the parade of 20 riders with President Mr. Widodo. It was like rock stars, wasn't it? And this was all part of what we hoped was going to be a really special grid ceremony to kick off the Indonesian Grand Prix. We saw the special grid ceremony for the first time precede the Qatar Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. It was a real nice new feature. Even though they can't go on the grid and they can't perform out on the circuit, well, the band are still going to play the Indonesian national anthem. So myself and Liz will just pause for a couple of moments.
Iya Pak. Belum nanti Twitter.
Well, you've got to give credit to the Indonesian authorities here, doing everything they possibly can to keep the patient fans, the expectant fans, entertained and occupied as we continue to have this unfortunate rain delay here. The race, of course, should have been over by now. Unfortunately, we're still waiting. We'll take another quick breathe as well and soak up what hopefully is the pre-race atmosphere of the St. Marching Band.
Pengen tutup rambut sini rambut sini ada pak saya kenal kali rambut sini kamu iya parah rambut sini rambut ambil rambut sini macam kenal rambutan rambut sini. Oh, Ini nih dari cover ini kan kalau Itu Pujati kan karakter unik apa? Pun kamu jawab. Berkembang cepat ya.
Violent high side during the warm-up session this morning. Promotes his teammate Paul Sparker up onto the 15th with Andrea Gioso, who's certainly got some previous wet conditions, hasn't he? He lined up 16th ahead of Juan Mir and Alex Marquez. Maverick Vinales would be 19th on the grid, ahead of the Texas rookies of Ralph Fernandez, Remy Gardner. Darren Binder is set to start 22nd. With Takaki Nakagami in 23rd. They're all, of course, chasing Fabio Quartararo, who starts from pole position.
Yeah, just actually quickly popped out of our commentary box, saw on the back of the scooter going to the Repsol Honda office was Marquez. Quite a big plaster, looks like he got on the right elbow. If that's all he got away with that monster high side in turn 7 this morning's walk. He's a very, very lucky boy, of course, three-time world champion. Sadly not a participant in this shortened 20-lap Indonesian Grand Prix. After that big spill this morning, the warm session, we wish Mark well. I hope he's back in action, fighting, fit, and ready to go. We'll make our first trip to South America since 2019. The Termas de Rio Honda circuit primed and ready for action there in 2 weeks' time.
So 90 seconds then, and the bikes will head out onto the racetrack. And of course, riders will ordinarily push too hard on a sighting lap. You can imagine riders will be very, very keen when they head out there to get a real idea of what the grip level's like. Of course, they'll do one lap to the grid, and then in 15 minutes of the pit lane opening, we will be off and running with the warm-up lap of this 20-lap Indonesian Grand Prix. Juan Mir, I guess he got some work to do, starting 17th on the grid, although he hasn't felt happy or comfortable at any stage really in the dry conditions this weekend. So perhaps a wet Grand Prix might present him with an opportunity to paper over some of the cracks of what has been a really desperate weekend for the 2020 World Champion.
Yeah, although he's been in MotoGP a couple of years, hasn't he, Juan? Likewise, Fabio Quartararo, they don't have an awful lot of wet weather experience. It's the journey, known as well for the rookies, the likes of Marco Bezzecchi, Fabio Antonio, Lee Gardner, Darren Binder as well. They didn't never race the MotoGP like in rain conditions. So Fabio Quartararo, for the first time in 9 long months, can't believe Sunday. He was always the qualifying king of the GP, wasn't in French, but he is going to start from pole position in this 20-lap Grand Prix. The number 20 flags waving proud in the Mandalika grandstands.
Just listen to the roar. This is what the crowd have been waiting for a good couple of hours now, since the Moto 2 race came to a conclusion with spots of rain in the air. They've seen plenty of rainfall instead. The green flag waves show and Marco. He needs to field out for the exciting lap. He'll do one lap to the grid, and then at 15 minutes past the hour, the Indonesian Grand Prix will be underway. What champion Fabio Quartararo starts from position. Just how much has his wet riding come on since last season? Of course, it was his difficulties in the wet conditions and mixed conditions that saw him start the Grand Prix that eventually included him as well, champion back in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix last year, 15th on the grid. Can he put those numbers behind him and give his World Championship defence the kickstart that he needs?
This is a massive step into the unknown for these MotoGP riders. They've done barely a handful of wet for the lap. Certainly the track wasn't as wet as this on Saturday morning. So this really is stepping into the unknown territory. Who's going to quickly master the conditions? Who's going to take the big risks? Jack Miller, well, you know that he's so good in the wet conditions. He's proven to be strong on the Ducati and the Honda in the past. Of course, it's mixed conditions. He took that famous win at the Dutch TT in Assen back in 2016. Who else has got really strong wet weather prowess in this field? Frankie Morbidelli's actually not a bad wet weather rider. Other guys with nothing to lose really, Andrea Dovizioso, particularly on a factory Ducati, where you can always put your money on him to be a big threat in these rain conditions. We've got to say, the way that Fabio Quartararo is throwing that Yamaha around that second sector, There's been a lot of feedback from the World Superbike riders here and the Moto3 riders who had a couple of wet sessions that the grip levels here in the rain at this Mandalika circuit are very, very good. Very, very good indeed. So you can see the guys are just out there now trying to understand where the patches of water are, where the water's patched at its worst, and then also just work out the grip levels. Pecco Bagnaia, also relatively inexperienced in terms of wet weather riding in MotoGP as well.
Alex Rins' rider I'd perhaps point to as well, who might have half a chance in these conditions. He starts in the middle of the third row in 8th place. Pit lane closes in 4 minutes' time, which is why you're seeing riders come back down pit lane. They do have time to do this. This isn't like the quick restart procedure where you have 60 seconds to get out there before the pit lane closes again. So, understandably, some of the smart cookies on this grid, the two Pramac riders, the two Suzuka riders, taking the opportunity just to see where some of the damper patches are, where some of the grip levels are. KTM, of course, they'll fancy their chances this afternoon. Brad Binder, last time we saw conditions like this, was winning a race on slicks. Of course, he won't be running them today. Miguel Oliveira Guidotti is speaking now with Simon.
Francesco, we now step into the unknown. I'd love to know how your riders go into this race, how they've been feeling in the box, and we do know how in the unknown Brad often pulls out something special. What are your thoughts?
Difficult to have an opinion, difficult to predict something. We never raced here before, and the conditions are completely different than the test and the practice for the weekend. So, yeah, let's start and we'll see. But the guys are in a good mood. Both of them usually perform well in the wet conditions. So, yeah, finger crossed and let's go.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Francesco Guidotti. A great start, as Lewis said, for the KTM team in Doha. Brad Binder, his third podium finish in the Premier class. I wonder if he's going to be tempted to go out on slick tyres. I'm joking, of course. That was, of course, his brilliant victory at the Red Bull Ring in the Austrian Grand Prix last year. So finally, we are getting the grid forming here at the Pertamina Mandalika circuit in Indonesia. Pramac Ducati await their man, Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco, both going from the front row of the grid. Brad Binder, there's going to be some nerve jangling now. As we mentioned, we can't overemphasise, this is a complete blank canvas, a complete journey to the unknown for these guys. They've never raced before here in Mandalika. They've certainly got very little experience of wet weather conditions. In some respects, it might be a bit of a lottery, but it's certainly going to provide some nail-biting entertainment. We hope you have stuck with us over the last hour and a half or so when our coverage for MotoGP started. I'm sure you have. Why would you go anywhere? It's the greatest motorsport show on earth as we look at Enea Bastianini starting from the middle of that second row. Binder and Bastianini, Lewis, in the dry. You really fancy them to be strong, given they've excelled in the Doha from really good qualifying performances. Let's quickly pop down to the griddies, tricky conditions. Simon's with the Michelin Motorsport manager, Piero Dallamassa.
Yes, Piero, some new conditions for you to make the weekend even tougher. Can you tell us what tyres the riders will go for?
In this condition, the choice is medium front and medium rear. This is the width. And also because here the tricky point is the overheating on the right side. And with the soft compound, the problem that you might overheat too much and you lose grip. With the medium will be much more stable. So this is the best choice for this condition.
Thank you, Piero.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks to Piero Taramassa. We're just running through this revised grid now, of course, revised, sadly, because 8 times world champion Marc Marquez has been ruled out of this delayed Indonesian Grand Prix. There is the president then, Mr. Joko Widodo, who is finally, after all of his effort and all the effort of the authorities here in Indonesia, it looks like, thankfully, we are going to get MotoGP action here in Indonesia for the first time since 1997.
Well, the Shaman certainly did the trick in the end. We got the race we were hoping for.
Yeah, whatever that lady's name was, get her inducted into the MotoGP Hall of Fame very, very quickly, because yes, it does look like the rain banisher, or whatever she was called by the locals. She normally goes to big events like weddings and parties.
She'll be getting a position at the FIM, I think. She'll be taken to every Grand Prix over the course of the year now to try and ward off any potential wet races or cancellations. So we're about to get underway then for this Indonesian Grand Prix. And Enea Bastianini goes into it as the championship leader. Let's get a word from Grassini with Simon.
Yeah, that was a key word you said there, championship leader. That's what I've come to see Michele Massini. Michele, he's done so well at Naya, you know, for the first race, all the way through this event, put himself in a good position on the grid, looked good in FP4. Now, completely different conditions. How does he feel about the wet?
Yeah, now it's difficult to predict how does it go the race, because still a lot of water on track. There is a big patch in some corner, but for sure this is the same condition for everybody, and we don't make any practice on this condition. So we will see. We start from the second row. This is good enough, but we have to learn lap by lap what we can do.
How does Enea feel about rain condition riding?
Not so bad. Not so bad. We have to improve in this point, but we have a good base on the rain.
Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Michele Massini from the Grassini Ducati team. Can they continue their stellar start for 2022? Alex Rins, not quite sure that it's sunglasses weather right now for the Suzuki man, but I guess just trying to keep himself focused, trying to hide some of the nerves that will inevitably be hitting these riders. This is nerve-wracking stuff. This is tense. This is where these guys are really, their skills are put to the limit, their concentration, their focus, because they're just about to encounter a racetrack in conditions that they've never experienced before. It's a bit of a level playing field, this, isn't it? It's going to be a case of...
Made a little bit of a mistake through turn one. We just saw him wide in the back of the shot. He's now coming under a bit of pressure from Alex Rins. There is quite his teammate Franco Morbidelli, who's made big progress in these early stages. Ducati aren't quite as competitive as we thought in these early stages. Jorge Martin this starts to make progress back through the pattern after his poor start. He's back up into ninth.
And Miller Mulligan on that second lap, it was almost a second faster than everybody else. Alex Rins comes to a long way back. That's going to be tight. Oh, so easy there to lock the front and wash out the front end of that Suzuki. Might have also skittled at the world champion Fabio Quartararo as well. Now then, Rins and Zarco got to find a way through on Quartararo pretty quickly here, because they can see the top two men that are on the there are much faster and starting to check out at the front.
Yeah, there's a real danger. Of course, a short race, 20-lap race, so not a lot of time for these riders to get these moves done to get up the road. Rins and Zarco really are climbing all over the back of Fabio Quartararo, who's lost a lot of ground on this lap. 1.5 seconds now on the leaders, but he managed to cover his line pretty well into turn 16. Rins still holds the line, still stays in pole position with Zarco and Mia just up behind them. And now we come back to Jorge Martin. He's in 8th position at the moment, just the back of it leading.
I just showed you there how one-line it is, particularly in these rain conditions for Alex Rins and Zarco. Couldn't get through. Quartararo's getting swallowed up though. Rins and Zarco pick him off out of that final corner on the brakes into the first corner. Quartararo going the wrong way here. He made a great start, but it's all unravelling too quickly here for the world champion. Alex Rins now has got his hands full. Two flying Frenchmen all over his rear tyre. Now this battle, as it rages on, it's just giving Miller and Oliveira the chance to break away. You can see the top two men there. They're already going through turn 5.
Here's what happened to Fabio Quartararo. I said earlier on in the walk, don't touch the curb. So Fabio Quartararo got on the curb and it's lost all his momentum.
I think that's what happened as well, Lewis, earlier on in the race. He was out wide on those curbs, super slick, super greasy, no grip whatsoever. 6-1. Full respect here to Miguel Oliveira to keep tabs with this early pace by the Australian. Oliveira on that last lap was also a 1:41.1. Johan Zarco also pretty rapid, but half a second away from the top two. Let's see what Rins now and Zarco can do now they've got Sean the world champ Quartararo.
This is a view back then from the race leader, Jack Miller, who we've so often seen excel in these kind of conditions. Miguel Oliveira, we've perhaps seen less of that over the years, but he's certainly proving he's the match for Jack Miller at the moment. He's going to have another one, but now, no, he stays where he is for the moment. While he's pulling away from the gap behind them, the likes of Alex Rins and Johan Zarco, I think Miguel Oliveira will be quite comfortable to sit there in second place. As long as he can still see the road ahead of him, he's quite happy just to sit there if he feels he's got the pace later on in this conference.
So it's the Aussie Jack Miller, always super strong in these tricky rain conditions, that still have the advantage. He fires in another 1:41.2, just a 10 quick lap time from the second. There is Jorge Martin back in 8th. Now then, what's happened to the number 89? Is he on the curbs as well? Oh, on the white line. slippery as you like. Look at this. He's on the curve, on the white line, and how on earth has he stayed on board that? That kicked sideways big time. Jorge Martin, that's heart in the mouth for the Spanish rider. He stays sunny side up, thankfully, and still holding 8th place.
World Championship leader is sink without trace, and Air Bastianini is down in 20th position at the moment. He's lapping in the 144, so he's
Ferraro.
Yes, we are any point because we did a 3-day test here. We prepare this race in the best way as possible. Very well, very well.